got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Augmented reality, AR, is a technology that merges computer-generated images with the user's real-world view, creating a composite experience. This interactive experience integrates various sensory modalities, such as things you can see, hear, and even feel, making the experience interactive and immersive. In recent years, the emergence of this transformative technology has seamlessly integrated digital and physical realms. This groundbreaking innovation relies on specialized hardware like smartphones and smart glasses equipped with cameras and sensors, AR software, and Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core. Then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR software such as Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR's applications span diverse industries from gaming to education, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. In education, AR enhances learning through interactive and dynamic experiences, while in healthcare, it aids surgical planning and medical training. Retail experiences are transformed as AR enables customers to virtually try on products and visualize furniture in their homes. Despite its potential, AR faces challenges such as technical advancements and user privacy concerns. Overcoming these hurdles will unlock even more seamless and immersive AR experiences, making it an integral part of our daily lives. As technology progresses, the horizon for AR broadens, promising a future where our interactions with the world are richer and more interconnected. Augmented reality is not just a trend, it's a revolution shaping the way we live, learn, and work. Goma Fortune, Souq News.
Muhammad Yunus was born on the 28th of June 1940 in the village of Batwa, Chittagong, a British Indian colony which is currently known as Bangladesh. He attended Lama Bazar Primary and Secondary School in his village and passed the matriculation examination into Chittagong Collegiate School, where he ranked 16th out of 39,000 students. After his graduation in 19...
Let me share of my nursery school knowledge. Days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and finally Friday. So thank God it is Friday. I am Blessing AHA. You're welcome to the Friday edition of the Front Burners and Souq News TV. It's a special one because when it gets to this time of the week, there's a special energy that's injected into everyone, and the show just becomes so spicy. You know, issues of interest will be discussed here today, and you get a chance to add your voice. You don't just watch. It is audience participatory. That means you can comment, you can send a message, and we have a segment dedicated to you just to have your feedback. My partners are here in the studio: Dr. Dausa Osamanze and, of course, Oyipre Kumale. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Blessing. What's Friday in your local language?
Don't worry, Doc. We'll have that later.
Really? Great Nigeria, where we get there.
No.
Just this Friday morning, dog just got you.
No, you didn't get me. There's no Friday in my language. Is there?
Look,
Let
we
me
are on
ask
the same
you.
side because you're wearing black.
No, let me
Not
ask you,
even-
because the
She
language
said
is
she will
same.
come back. So
The language is same. So if he has Friday in his language, I have Friday in my language. Doug, what's Friday in your language? There's no Friday.
Good morning,
what's
dear
Friday in your
Lagos.
language? You have
My language.
Friday.
Don't worry. I don't want to fall into that. I don't want to fall into
When
that.
the days
Maybe Swift
when,
goes ass.
when the days of the week. No, we have for figures, for numbers, 1, 2. Then we have maybe to describe yesterday, today, tomorrow.
I just remembered
But when
mine.
it comes to what is Friday in your language?
The end of the week.
we need to look for some African dialect to capture certain English words. So I doubt there's Friday in Yoruba, but Swift Aderito is here. She might tell us. Swift, what is Friday in Yoruba?
Because all the gentle people on the table couldn't say anything. If I now say it, to be as if
No,
I'm
say it
Mexico.
now.
I'm
We're
very
humble. Yes, we're very humble.
You
That's
too.
your weakness.
And
No, you see,
that you're shortened. Oh, good morning, everybody. As usual, I have to compliment you. I love the turtleneck. It's
Thank you
working.
very much.
You know it's in season right now for fashion.
Oh,
So you look
yes.
absolutely stunning. It's like you're planning for the Friday.
yeah, so your gown looks like you're seeing the red carpet already.
There's definitely a party.
I
Doctor, good morning, sir. How you
good
doing?
morning.
Oyinbre, good morning.
morning to you, sir.
Your state is going, but it's okay. It's okay. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. And welcome to something you don't want to miss. They say the news always sounds better on Fridays because it's the end of the week. My name is Swift Aderito, and like I say, this is the news in a toned-down version. So let's jump right into it. My first story. And they say if you empower a woman, you have empowered a community and a nation. And this became a reality when the Bank of Industry launched a 10 billion fund for Nigerian female entrepreneurs. The initiative aims to address the persistent financial inclusion gap faced by women in Nigeria. The bank managing director, Dr. Olashupo, Olusi, announced the initiative on Thursday in Lagos, emphasizing that the fundraising is designed to empower women who are pivotal to the Nigerian economic growth. According to him, Nigeria leads the world in women's entrepreneurial activities, and 23 million female entrepreneurs, accounting for 41% of the country's microfinance businesses. However, access to finance remains a significant barrier for many of these women. Hence, this initiative. And of course, this is laudable, as this is the month for women. My second story comes with fresh pepper soup and unripe plantain is being shared and distributed freely all over Rivers State as the Senate approves emergency rule in Rivers. The senators agreed to establish a mediation committee consisting of the eminent Nigerians to help resolve the state's political crisis. The approval of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's proclamation of the state of emergency in Rivers, invoking its constitutional powers under the Amendment 1999 Constitution. And this grants President Tinubu the authorization to enforce emergency measures while mandating a review of the situation at any time but no later than 6 months. The sole administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Mbok Ete Ibas, has assured residents that he is not in the state as a partisan actor or a political competitor, but as a stabilizing force to restore governance and order. We are hoping governance and order is restored as he's one of the people. And of course, my final story for the day says NYC members might be on a verge of challenging Davido Wizkid Burna Boy for Dogu status as they have begun to price houses in Banana Island due to an increment in allowances. The Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Brigadier General Olakunle, has assured corps members that their monthly allowance of 77,000 naira will be implemented starting from March 2025. Hooray! The DG gives the assurance during an initiative section with corps members at Wuse and Garaki NYC zonal offices in Abuja, while reaffirming the commitment of both the NYC and the federal government to the welfare of corps members. The development comes months after NYC announced the proposed increment of allowances from 33,000 to 77,000 in line with the new minimum wage that was approved by President Bola Tinubu in July 2024 after a review increase in 2019 from 33,000, also following a review of the minimum wage. Of course, I'm about to run away, but I have to leave you with one of my quotes. They say he who runs to fight another day has run away to create a plan. As I run away today, don't worry, I'm not going away forever. I'm leaving you in the capable hands of their magnificent front burners team. I call them the Magnificent Three. My name is Swift Aderito. See you on top. Bye.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East. Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. development. Stay tuned.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
With the news analysis now, we'll take a first story saying the federal government will take steps to harmonize fiscal data across various government agencies in a bid to enhance economic stability and bolster investor confidence in Nigeria, according to the Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, who announced this on Wednesday while chairing a high-level fiscal data harmonization meeting. He emphasized the importance of ensuring accurate, timely, and comprehensive economic data to boost investor confidence and stability. Now, this is a critical issue we cannot overemphasize. It's important for timely economic data. So, at any part of the economy, that data should come up quite early and should reflect the happenings, the developments, the trends in the economy. And I, at this point, want to give kudos to the NBS for timely economic data. In that department, they are doing very well. So for each month, they give data on economic activities, the growth, the areas that have done well and the areas that have not been doing well, and also reasons behind that. And I think other sectors of government should emulate this, even as fiscal data harmonization is being talked about, Doc.
Well, I won't be able to say to what extent that maybe MBS is able to actually achieve some of this, because some
timely. That's why I'm commenting.
Yeah. Sometimes some of all these things are projections, and they come because you have done some things and you have a baseline, and on the basis of your baseline, you can actually make some projections. And I think that's what I want to put there. But you see, the biggest challenge, which of course we have talked about over and over and over in government, is the lack of synergy between government agencies. And of course, you can't say in real time what one agency is doing part-time. And so you will need to have to send memos and memos and memos to be able to see what the other agency is doing. And then, of course, you can use their data to plan. Now, you can imagine what we were talking about yesterday when we were talking about the Naira for crude deal. And we're saying, yes, NNPCL is saying, oh, agreement is lapsing. Now, how is the CBN, for example, in sync with this issue? Because that also will affect whatever monetary policy that the CBN is going to put forward out there. Custom is doing something. How is the people who are in Nigerian Ports Authority able to assess what they are doing? Or how is Custom able to assess what the people in the Port Authority is doing, even when they work closely together? So that distance between government is actually the problem. And I think that it's good that the Minister of Finance is seeing this, that there's a need for people to be coordinated, so that when we are using data, for example, we will know which data we are using. Take, for example, if you talk about the population of Nigeria, for example, as simple as that is, as simple as what is Nigerian population, if you check on Google now, you will have different multiple figures. And that's because every agency of government is having their own figure, and they are relying on one source or the other. And this is a big problem. And I think in a world of technology, where, of course, technology is defining how people live, we should be able to go beyond some of all these issues that we are thinking. Again, it takes me back to what Nigerian Institute of Strategic Study have presented to Mr. President, the onegovernment.org. The right time is now, where all agencies of government are synced into one, and therefore we are able, because people have argued that the new crude is actually data. It's data. Data is money.
Data mining.
So if we, at this age, we don't have data, it becomes very difficult for people to be able to get information that, you see, we can go online and say, okay, how is budget moving in America? You see it online. What's going to Ministry of Defense, you see it online. Those things are not available here. And so people who are even thinking of area where they want to pitch their tent in terms of investment will not even have accurate data to measure whether there's going to be likely profitability in the thing they want to do. And so these are real, genuine worries. And if we must have to move forward, and I think this has to be done as if it was yesterday, I don't think we need to be doing too much of meeting around this, that government must sit down and understand that data is life. And because data is life, we are able to harness all the data. Now, if you look at death, for example, we can't coordinate it. We don't need to know about people that actually die, but all these things are on estimates. And we are just projecting that, okay, we are thinking that death rate is between 1.2% or 3%. So that projection don't work, and they are not actual. But if you have true data from Ministry of Health, for example, who records deaths and say, okay, this is the number of people who died, this is the number of people that are born, it is easier for us to be able to capture this data, and then people are able to plan with it and do beautiful business with it.
Okay, so when Doc said data is the new crude, someone else actually put it in a different way. He said, data is money and data is power. Any nation that makes business projections without using data as a driving force is just making accurate data as a driving force or as a guide. It's just moving at a very fast space, and it's heading to the ditch. The reason why I said that is because if we're to make or backpedal and reference the Nigerian population again, most of the time when we give out projections or when there's a enumeration exercise and we talk about Nigerian population, one specific area that the international community always want to point attention or beam their lights on are the working population, the virile population of Nigerians right now standing between the ages of 15 and 45 or so. And with that, they can, deduce Nigeria's economic strength and the perspective of Nigerians to be able to churn out the required working population, skilled population, come 10, 20 years ahead that should meet all other needs of all other sectors with regards to development and management and business economy in the country, even including commercial activities. And so if we do not have accurate data, then the government comes out to plan. Where did you get your blueprint from? It is obvious that something very important is missing. Now, I think from the onset, we had made some form of laws that we have given to some institutions to execute for us to have a direction, but it looks like it has been neglected. Doc was talking about the number of deaths and from the Ministry of Health. In fact, in it is one of the core responsibilities of local governments to record death and birth rates. And that's because there is, just the way you have the Ministry of Health and the State Ministry of Health at the state level, there is also a health institution at the local government level that also collates this data, through which the local government transfers it to the state authority. And of course, the federal ministry equally liaises with the state authorities to be able to cash out this data and give projections with regards to death and births and any other epidemic that might be coming up from the ebb of society. So if we do not have this data from that specific institutional representation at the ebb of society, then we have missed a critical part of it, and we cannot start building from the middle, because we must start building from the cradle. Apart from that, when we look at this issue of data, and the blessing was, referencing the National Bureau of Statistics. You see, every country must have this institution, even at the control or at the behest of the executive organ of government, but it's completely so independent of unwholesome interference, to the extent that even if it's going to churn out data that the government or the chief executive might interpret it as, painting a bad light of my administration, it should not see it that way. It should rather see it as an interpretation that should put the chief executive or the executive organ of government on its toes. So we must not interfere when the National Bureau of Statistics come out to give data or give forecast about something, and it looks like it's indicting the administration. We must not interpret it that way, and to make sure we interrogate it. Lastly, one thing I want to reference is during the 9/11 terrorist attack in the United States of America, after it was done and dusted, the FBI and all security agencies in the United States of America sat down, including the Senate committee, and they were meeting and they were asking the military and the FBI and the security, like, how did this happen? Are you saying we did not know that these guys were working and planning, because they couldn't have done this without putting on arduous task and planning for years? And the Senate committee and the government committee that was interrogating this matter among the FBI and other security agencies discovered that the military agencies or the law enforcement agencies refused to share information. They had this data. They have credible information, but they refuse to share it. And because they refuse to share that information amongst themselves in order to present a front that, a synergy to curb that happenstance, it passed through their nose. And the devastation and the toll it took on the United States of America, we know the story. So,
right.
The importance of data.
Yeah, I agree to some extent with what Priya said, but the only area where you say we cannot controvert what a data mining agencies put out is quite subjective, because the truth, if you remember when we were having this conversation the last day with Anisaki, one of the things he said is the fact that who is doing World Bureau, who is talked to, who is surveyed. And there, of course, because to a very large extent, we tend to see that science is as objective as people think. There is some element of subjectivity in whatever thing that is coming out, because you cannot take the entire population, really, for example, to say, okay, you are doing a census. You can only take a sample, and depending on who you are talking to, and maybe what elements of luck factor into these things can determine whether those data that you are receiving can be true. But of course, you also know that a lot of people use data for several purposes, and it's also depending on what you're actually aiming to do with data. And I think that's where, for me, really, artificial intelligence had become really very handy to be able to isolate. I'll give you for a simple example. Some years ago, I had to do a product test for a particular company here in Lagos, and we were to sample. They were coming to do ice cream. And so we went to sample the ice cream. And by the time we finished sampling and see the opinion of people, it was clear in the survey, for example, that, people don't want ice cream. And they already put money down. But a second thought to say, okay, well, who are these people who really don't really need ice cream? And you go and find out the wrong sample. What did we see? People above 40 who are now watching weight, who are running away from sugar, were the preponderance of the respondents. And so, they are not the one the ice cream is made for. Ice cream is meant for people. So for you to be able to actually get what is right, you have to be able to look at the data, look at the demographics, who is talked to, before you can take for certainty that what this information that is coming out from this agency is true. Because once you use straight percentage to arrive at a particular decision, you can be in error. And this is why people are always looking and want to see what are the facts behind the data. It's quite important also.
All right, I want to even look at the type of data that we would need to harmonize here. So when we talk about fiscal data here, we're talking about every data that has to do with the government's financial activities to reflect the health, the financial health of the government. We're talking about revenue, expenditure. We're talking about also debt. So let's even look at the aspects of revenue generation. How does government generate revenue? The taxes that come in, the grants that come in, the fees, the fines that government imposes on erring institutions or companies, and how much that generates. We need to also have that data available. We're talking about expenditure. So where is government putting in money? To what public services government putting in money? It may be in education, it may be in the health sector, or in other sectors of the economy. So when we talk about spendings of the government, what area of the economy is receiving the spending, so that we can also assess the impact of the spendings. Now we're looking at the debt of government debt. So how much of domestic debt does the government have? How much of foreign debt? How much is the government spending on servicing debt? Now, when the minister was advocating for interagency
collaboration,
synergy, that is really missing. So you find that one agency of government is churning out data on its activities. The other is stalling data. Now, let's even look at budget performance, agency by agency. It takes a lot of time before the financial reports from these agencies even get to the Accountant General of the Federation, before it gets to the Auditor General of the Federation. So how then do you assess to know how these budgets or these spendings were appropriated, how monies that were allocated to NDAs, how they were appropriated? So you are doing the audits in retrospect. You have entered a new year, but you're still auditing the reports of previous years. And this comes from the MDAs. And that's why the minister was talking about accurate, timely, and comprehensive data. And even sometimes when data comes from agencies, when data comes from certain sectors or ministries, it is not comprehensive. And that's one issue that I highlighted one time. It's more like a carpet information. What about the details of that information? The fact that the NBS would have a breakdown of certain information as it concerns the economy, as they do that monthly, as they do that for forecast and different other aspects of the economy, it doesn't excuse the concerned agency or the concerned ministry of providing also comprehensive data regarding its financial activities, where money is coming from, where money is going to, what is the impact of these ventures that the ministries or the MDAs are getting into. Now, until we begin to do this timely, and sometimes it looks like it's a deliberate effort not to have this information timely, because some of these things can be automated. Some of them can be done using artificial intelligence, using digital systems. But there seems to be a reluctance in digitizing some of these processes. So you still have a lot of manual rendering of records. And that takes a lot of time, passing from table to table, going through before you now have the data. So you're waiting for the data from the other ministry. So a lot needs to be done. I will touch on the onegov.ng. That would really help. And I think it's long overdue that we have a central system where you don't even need to go to this ministry's website to have access to certain information. From one portal, you can access what happens in the other part. But, you know, certain agencies want to also maintain supremacy, want to hoard information too, and not share information regarding their operations.
I remember in one forum we had some time ago, the DG, the current DG of NIPS was saying that the biggest problem that we really face as a people is the ego of all heads of MDAs. And everybody is claiming one level of superiority over another. So I agree with you completely, and that's why synergy is not possible, and that's why interagency collaboration is difficult, because everybody is a big man in his own right and will not want to succumb to these other persons. And I feel that really is deliberate, and I have said it on this table, and I will continue to maintain that opinion, that I feel and honestly believe so, that the fact that we have not been able to transcend primordial sentiment, to begin to recognize our states as an institution, and then, of course, some of all these things keep moving here and there, because it's just deliberate attempt by some certain people to ensure that where some things start to come in, and those avenues are not blocked. And of course, you understand these concepts of turn by turn, which actually has been a very damaging policy, of kind of unwritten policy in public service, that a lot of people feel that, oh, it's my turn, and this man enjoyed it yesterday, so it's my turn to enjoy it today, so you will not change it in my time. And some of all these are the issues that, of course, as a nation face. And of course, we cannot also take away how we see things differently. Just this morning, I was asking myself, now I understand why they say lawyers are very learned. Because
I have a feeling where this is going.
Yeah, to even say something is extraordinary, and I've heard more than 100 interpretations of just a common word, extraordinary. I thought that it was something that is not ordinary, that something that was not normal. But now there's so much interpretation out right there. And of course, this is not because people are actually speaking to issues that they want, but because they deliberately want to confuse the people. And this is what we find in the system. So I just do feel that we get to that point in our national development that everybody seems to really be prioritizing the interest of the nation. Just like they say, God bless America. So I want to be hearing, God bless Nigeria.
Well, indeed, God will bless Nigeria. But you know one thing, America have strong institutions.
And this is what
God
we
looks
need.
at
No.
and we are going to have strong
This is what we
institutions.
need, strong
It's not
We are going to have
institutions.
strong
People
institutions.
make, people make institutions. You see, people make strong institutions. And if you remember, when ICPC had a media parley the other day, one of the issues that was raised was the fact that, you see, institutions don't build themselves. Institutions don't build themselves. Now, in America, for example, if you are a government officer and your government is trying to do something that's against the law, you will sign your resignation and you move out. In this part of the world, people don't resign. So even if your principal is doing what is wrong, you go to the public to defend the actions.
Okay, so,
now, this is not about institution. It's about
I know,
individual values.
That's just a statement on the person.
Yeah, but I wanted to lay that, so because people keep talking about institutions as if institutions rule themselves. Many of the things that we talk about today, really, for example, even including this data harmony and synchronization, there are no law that say agencies should deny another agency, even the FOI, that says even the ordinary citizen can access information from public establishment. They make it absolutely difficult. It's not because the institution don't want to. The issue is that the man who is at the institution is deliberately manipulating the institution to suit his purpose.
By creating unnecessary bottlenecks. So you want information from one office. You are told go to the headquarters. So you write. And then, in fact, there's a lot of frustration at the end of the day. You're not getting the information that you want. These are man-made. But I get the point you're raising that when institutions are stronger than individuals, it will be hard for one person to control. And then there will be consistency. Yeah. But also the people need to create that so that that institution thrives.
You know what? I'm going to leave that conversation about institutions and personalities for another day. I was just, making a passive statement. I said, God has blessed America. There are things God sees in America is going to continue to bless. He needs to see those in Nigeria too. So now, this is where I'm going. The minister spoke about discrepancies.
Yes.
And these discrepancies in this data I was talking about has affected Nigerian credit ratings in the global arena. In fact, there are some information you want to get, even as an organization, most especially the media. They are just afraid of the media. If from media you are requesting from a specific form of data using the FOI instrument, they are just going to stall. They'll be asking,
you're
why do you
greeted
need
with
it?
hostility.
What, in fact. So some of this data, Nigeria needs to start asking questions. The International Monetary Fund will come in and they will have free access to such data. Global organizations, institutions from other countries, from other nations, irrespective of their category, they have their way whenever they want to source
because they're bringing
and get
grants.
this data.
You asking for the information. Are you bringing grants?
Nigerian companies that are in here who need this data on ground to plan for organizational improvement, for employment, and also for investment, because the government is also saddled with the responsibility of creating an enabling environment, the right ecosystem for businesses to thrive. Whenever they go asking for this data, they don't get it. And if they make the one they find available, to that extent, even the global organizations, some of these local organizations seek loans from these global institutions and organizations to have the required finances for them to carry out an establishment or to site industry or a manufacturing hub somewhere, which sometimes they either are going to pay back or they are going to get as a way of grants from international institutions. And because in their presentation, they have not cited the accurate data, which is not a fault of theirs, but because they were denied, they were unable to have access to accurate data to defend their proposal at that global level for them to, maybe like to access hundreds of thousands of dollars, then they suffer as a result of that. So if the international organizations can have that and local Nigerian companies cannot have that, and this discrepancy sets Nigeria on the wrong path, and it has its own toll on Nigeria economic and business development here. So the government must begin to address that, not only creating that, but also to be open, open to objective inquiry or request for such data.
Okay, so I think the government is taking care of that with the Freedom of Information Bill. It is now for the organizations to begin to know that there's a bill and there should be access to information. But again, there needs to be that oversight function and that consistency prevailing and keep insisting on certain information being released. But if we have these organizations, if we have them on the onegov.ng, I think that it will be clear there what information is there. And then it will be easy to monitor what information should be there that is not there. But when you don't have, a lot of them have websites that they don't update. The information there is stale. So if you want current information, you need to go to the office physically. And when you get to the office physically, you are demanding for the information. That's when this bottleneck, that's when this intentionality to frustrate those who are seeking the information comes in. But if it was a digital system where it is central and there is a monitoring team on it, so you expect that for maybe an agency like the FIRS, you expect that these are the kind of information we want. We want to know how much of tax that you've been able to rake in, the institutions that are, or the businesses that have paid the tax. If it's not there, then the question is, why don't we have this information there? But when it is website based on organization, website based on institutions, you will find that how many of them can you begin to check differently? Let's say, for instance, you go to the CBN website and you want to get what the current exchange rate is today. Chances that has not even been updated as of 2 days ago. But go to a private website where we used to have the Abuki FX. You would find it being updated 3 times daily. If you want to know what the parallel market rate is in the morning, you will know it. Just go there, you find it. What is it in the afternoon, you find it. What is it in the evening, you find it. But go to the CBN, which is the apex financial institution in Nigeria. Go and check for yesterday's exchange rates. No, you might not find it. So that is the willingness to update data. It is not really there, and that's why you find that the Freedom of Information Bill is not working, because if you're not updating data, how do you access it? You can go and ask, but will you get the information? That's one part of it. You were asking why is it that multilateral institutions, foreign agencies will have access to this data, but the businesses locally here don't have it. And I jokingly said, the multilateral institutions will provide grants. The businesses will not provide grants. So it's who is bringing money they are attending to.
Yeah, but look at it really, Lawrence Harrison and Samuel P. Huntington co-edited a book they called Culture Matters, in which they explore the place of cultural values in shaping economy and development. And one of the issues that was highlighted is the fact that if you look at what is happening around Africa, many of them are cultural issues. Do you really realize that in Africa, for example, we don't tell the number of children we have because it's a taboo?
That's true.
So you have to look at some of the cultural imperatives that actually reinforcing some of the things that we are seeing in public space. How culture affects how we think, how we do our things. Because when you put everything out in the open, you see people are afraid. And so they don't want to show everything, so we keep it. Now, it's in our subconscious as a people. And these are things that really are affecting us. Because, you see, value systems are critical to how people are governed. And whereas if you go to America and say, well, I have 2 boys, they are beautiful. Even here now, they tell you and say, you are putting your children on Facebook.
Social media.
Social media. They will use their picture to do charm. Now, these are things that are shaping our consciousness. And they affect the way we behave. That's why we are not open people.
So there is the consciousness that if you put out information, it can be used
against you.
So to avoid that, you hold the
information. So you have to look at that cultural dimension to some of the things that we do. And they are quite very, very many, and we can point to some certain things. I was looking at somebody's obituary yesterday, and I looked at the name that was written in my language, and I said, God, you can imagine the philosophical understanding of a name. And the name of a person is that I cannot offend the king. For example. How do you give your son that name?
So that's like you are commissioning your child to subserviency all through.
So you can't
offend the king. Who is the king? Who is he referring to?
Don't even bring that up.
Who is the king?
Don't bring that up.
They could be referring to.
Whatever, of course, in that local environment, they have a king. So that's their king. They don't look at deity. So
you know, that's the manipulation we're talking about when different meanings are given to a particular thing.
It's an intellectual conversation.
Okay. So you're now a learned colleague, right?
Yes, sir.
There's no trouble about that. But it's just also point to that aspect of our culture that does not make us as open as we should be. That even people lie about their age, they can't declare how old they are because they feel that, it can be used against them. And you have that tendency to stay beyond how you are. These are issues that we have to address. And of course, the only way, and that's why I keep saying, for example, yesterday I was asking Dr. Ken, is that, can we also look at the role of the intellectuals in reshaping our consciousness? That some of the things that we do really sometimes don't make meaning and they don't make sense. And we need to begin to deliberately shift from these kind of practices so that we can do things well. Take our budget, for example. It's the most opaque thing I've seen in the entire world.
Is it not in black and white? How is it to pay?
Yes, it's written in black and white. But what is written in black and white? And the people are not really having expectation to say, okay, this is a priority. Take, for example, sit down with 2025 budget and compare it with the medium-term economic framework, which is supposed to be the underpinning philosophy for the budget. They are part. The MDAs have no regard for the medium-term economic framework.
That's the synergy we're talking about.
So these are where the issues. You are talking revenue. A lot of agency of government, when this particular government came and said, look, every agency is a revenue center. All the money you collect, put it into this thing. There was a whole lot of protests. I said, we are not a revenue center. We don't collect revenue. In short, I was having a conversation with some people. I said, you don't collect revenue. People come to your hospital, they register for card.
Yes.
Is that not revenue? It's revenue. You sell pure water or bottled water on campus. Is that not revenue? You take that and say, oh, you don't generate revenue, so why would they be talking about 100% remittance? Yes, 100% remittance. This is issue because people don't want to declare everything because that actually creates room for ambiguity. And that ambiguity is what is actually fueling and feeding corruption. And I have argued elsewhere that until we have performance-based budgets, auditing will always become a big problem. This envelope system has not helped anybody, and I don't think it can help us, especially based on our cultural values.
All right, quickly, let's touch on the story regarding NYC members, that's the National Youth Service Corps members. The DG of NYC has announced that the 77,000 Naira allowance for corps members will be paid in March. Payment will commence in March. So Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu announced this, and that he says that the new monthly allowance of 77,000 Naira will begin from March 2025. And I guess that some corps members are happy. But if memory serves me right, this increment was announced sometime in 2024, I think around August, but it was backdated, that it would be backdated, the payment will be backdated to begin around July. And this is March 2025. The DG is announcing that payment of the new allowance for corps members will begin in March. You know, at that time, there was the defense from some quarters that the reason it's being delayed is because that allowance wasn't provided for or wasn't captured in the budget, so they had to wait for the next month because the announcement came towards the end of the month. They had to wait for the next month. So we had some corps members serving here at the time. They were very happy, optimistic, they were expectant. So months and months rolled by, and we saw our hope diminished until that particular batch passed out. There's a new batch now. We are yet to begin receiving that. So how do we make promises? How do we make announcements for things that we've not put on the ground? Arrangements to ensure that they can commence as when due, as at when due.
Well, I have said this time without numbers. There's so much that we have to talk about the way businesses are conducted in Africa, poor communication. And I think that is the same. People are so overexcited about a little achievement, and because of that, they just go out into the public space and then they make all manners of claims without really being definite about it. And I think this is just quite poor. And now, what this makes feel is that, oh, because of the ranting that started about some few days ago, is actually what is pushing government to come out to say, oh, we are going to start in March. Now, if you knew that you don't have the capacity to start this thing, because if, again, go back to what I just said just now about budgetary system. NYC has a budget. Eh?
Yes.
Don't they have a budget? Now, from last year, October, or maybe sometimes September or October, they would have started the preparation of the budget because last year it was a little bit late. You should have been able to factor in that people know that this is at what point that you are going to have enough money to start to pay your staff. And this is announced over several months ago. And now we are saying, oh, we are about to be ready. So what was the necessity of announcing it 6 months ago if we were not ready to pay it?
It was to build hope.
Yeah. So you, yeah.
Yes, because you have to be hopeful to receive.
Yeah. So you need to drive communication very well. And I think I keep saying that there's a need to train those who speak for government because they don't know what to say. Yes, some of them have their publicists, they have degrees, but some of these degrees, I don't think it fits into common sense in terms of communicating things on behalf of government.
Maybe we can borrow from what Dr. Ken Ikenwa said yesterday. We're celebrating degrees without pedigree.
Yeah. So that's what it is. If you are going to speak to the people, clearly 77,000, that's what we are paying. And by our calculation, this thing is going to start next year by March. Everybody is at stake. And you don't unnecessarily raise people's hope without any possible actions. And now, of course, because we are now having people now saying, oh, yes, why would the young girls say, you promised them 77,000 and you are paying them 33,000. Now government is coming out to say, oh, it's March, we are going to start to pay. It doesn't make sense.
Great. I like it. Now, why? I like it when they put the government on their toes. So if, now, would the government are they going to judge Nigerians wrongly? If we say, oh, because there is now a quantum, someone came out and made a statement about the government and the payment of their fee, and now the government is sitting up to its responsibility. Is the government going to say, no, we already had that plan already, we already had that arrangement already that we're going to commence payment in March and all of that, so who are we going to then believe? This calls for something I will say that, look, constructive criticism against government is permitted. In fact, sometimes whether you are in the government's employ, because you have to voice out your opinion. Constitutionally, voicing out your opinion is guaranteed. Whether you are in the employment of the government or you are not in the employment of the government, or before we start entertaining issues whether NYSC members are under the part of the civil servants, or whether they are directly or indirectly employed by the government, it's not the case at this moment. Everybody, whether you are in there or not, has that right to criticize government constructively. And government must not perceive any or all criticism to be coming from political rivals or to be coming from political enemies. Now, in this case, for me, I want to speak on this issue in a different perspective. For the Nigerian, the NYSC members, I think it's great that you're going to be having 77,000 naira. I don't think I had 77. Blessing, you didn't have 77,000.
We should not be distracted with the figure. But what is the value of 77,000?
Oh,
when you were paid maybe 19,800 or 33,000 what could you do with it at that time? What can you do with 77,000? That's what we should be looking at.
However,
it's a value.
However, 77,000 naira is coming to these people.
Okay,
and
yes, you said it's come, it hasn't come. Okay.
I think they will be like, oh great, it's now 77,000 naira. Maybe something can happen tomorrow and it will be 200,000 naira.
Maybe in another 3, 4, 5 years.
No, it could be very recent. In fact, there should be a law just like there is a law to review when we are to conduct population census.
And when is this 77,000 naira coming? Check the years in between.
Okay, so since the government now goes around rebasing the economy, and when we are supposed to be looking at inflation at 34.8%, now we are looking at it at 24. In fact, there's a last report that came out now says that the inflation rate of the economy is now in that's at 23. And do remember that the target of the government is 15%. If we're going to be doing that, and if there is also a law for us to review our population census every 5 years, then there should be a law as well to review what we give to Nigerian NYSC members. Maybe it could be every 5 years. Maybe it could be every 3 years. But there must be a year set aside to review this amount so that it will be in alignment with what the economy is saying at that particular point in time.
Okay, sir. Dear call members, you've been waiting for several months. You can still exercise patience and wait till the end of March. Let's hope that this time around, the promise of the federal government that have been reiterated by the DG of the NYSC, this time around, you would actually be credited 77,000 naira each as your monthly allowance. Well, We'll wait to see if that happened. I know the core members here will smile. But my worry, however, is those who were serving at the time the announcement was made, who passed out of the scheme without receiving that money. I think it's just painful. They saw it. You know,
just like Abraham, but they didn't enter into the promised land.
How painful, how painful. And I think we can do better as a nation, particularly when we're dealing with our young people, dealing with people who we say are the leaders of tomorrow. So they don't get into positions tomorrow and make promises they do not intend or do not work towards keeping. That's how trust deficit grows. We should not encourage that. Let's take a break. When I return, to the time for us to explore business opportunities in other parts of the world. What is the business trend in Belgium and other countries? Stay to find out if you're an investor or intend to be one.
My name is Shino Gbadegeshin. I'm the CEO of Gozi Micro Insurance. Continue to watch Souq News.
Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hey everyone, Majuli Obaje here representing Gigi. Keep watching Souq News, okay? Stay updated with Souq News.
My name is Aton Keme. I am the head of MSME banking. Please keep watching Souq News and stay glued to Souq News.
I recommend that more and more people should watch Souq News because they deal with business news.
Hi, my name is Amaka Wokolo. I am the director of the Faith Institute at Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
The Three Wise Men. Iconic sculptures and statues adorn major metropolitan cities of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, the statue of three men designed to depict the state's cultural heritage and to usher in visitors and tourists into the ever-accommodating center of excellence is no doubt an astounding work of art. Originally built under the administration of Colonel Raji Rasaki, designed by Bodun Shodende in 1991 and standing over 12 feet high, referred to as Agba Meta or Aro Meta, the three sculptured chiefs were placed along the Lagos-Ibadan toll gate to welcome people coming into Lagos State. The statue called the Three Wise Men by many has become a major signature for the state. Three white-capped chiefs clad in white wrappers, knotted across their shoulders and with clenched right fists are shown in the artwork. The images fascinate and create impressions in the minds of visitors coming into the state, captivating the attention of visitors who look with keen interest, pondering on the messages which the posture of the engraved images signifies. The Three Wise Men has been relocated thrice from its original position at Ojodu Berger end of Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to Magodo area before its final relocation to its present site at Olowopopo Drive. The sculpture has suffered severe damages over the years and renovated. Bodun Shodende, through this sculpture, depicted the highest honor that can be afforded to anyone in the Eko greeting tradition. The Three Wise Men, Arometa, Souq Enlightenment. got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Many thanks for staying tuned to this segment of Front Burners. It is Policy Discuss. Today we'll begin by exploring the economic opportunities, the business trends in Belgium and Luxembourg. So, from commodities to clean energy, it is reported that there are several opportunities there. I asked the question before we went on a break. Are you an investor? Do you want to learn of new opportunities so you know where to put your money? You know now, multiple streams of income is very important. So I could also add to that investment in different continents, in different countries is also important. So let's take some money offshore now and do some offshore investments. To handle this discussion today, we have Collins Weke, who is a foreign policy commentator. He joins virtually. Good morning. Welcome to the Front Burners.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Good morning.
Now, let's look at opportunities outside of Nigeria. We always brag as Nigerians that this is home for opportunities. If you want to make money, bring your money in here. But also, let's also look at where Nigerians can take money into. What kind of business partnership can Nigerian businesses have with those in Belgium and Luxembourg? So let's talk about it. What's happening there?
Well, first and foremost, a bit of background. As you know, I mean, based on how I sound, based on my surname, I was born in Nigeria, raised there. But at some point, you know, I made the decision to migrate out of Nigeria, and Belgium has been home to me for the better part of the last, 3 decades. And, initially, I mean, you get fixated on, the migration narratives in terms of settling down, studies, raising a family, career, and all of that. But then, once you begin to, feel reasonably settled, and then you begin to say, okay, well, this country of my origin, so let's reconnect, because for several reasons. I mean, one, inevitably hangs up on the country. And so in that process of reconnecting, you also look at, the value connections that one had made, and then you ask yourself, how best can we link both countries together culturally, economically, and otherwise? And that was how I actually got involved in this business of trade linkages between Nigeria and Belgium and Luxembourg. Now, to your question, in terms of where one can put one's money, let me make one point, very clear from the outset. Your money doesn't quite need to leave Nigeria. Now, if you choose to do that, that's perfectly okay. But it could also be that with your business in Nigeria, and you find the right partners out here in Belgium and Luxembourg, that they will be the ones actually relocating their money to Nigeria, setting up, for instance, production activities in partnership with your firm. A new instrument could be, started off, or it could be anchored on existing business. So you see, that too also creates job in Nigeria, and that will also, boost, economic activities and so on and so forth. So what we have been trying to do as consultant to, Nigeria-Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum is actually to create these linkages in terms of who in Nigeria needs partners in Belgium and Luxembourg, and for which sectors, which activities. And then we ask the same question out here in Belgium and Luxembourg, and so we do the the match making, and so that was how it all comes. So as a consequence of these loose stores, I just thought it might be beneficial for both economies to pull down, some of these nuisance that I have been having, on paper, and that was what led to, the op-ed that you reference.
Thank you and good morning, Dr. Collins. Hope the weather is treating you fairly today.
Exactly.
Thank you. Talking Belgium, Luxembourg, Nigeria, moving from commodity to clean energy. Are we shifting from the position of Kwame Nkrumah when he wrote that book in 1965, Neo-Colonialism, the last phase of imperialism? One very remarkable example he cited there was how the British authorities decided to move Ghanaian farmers from planting potato to cocoa because they really didn't need the potato, and then label it to be carcinogenic. Are we moving from that same conversation in this new narrative of commodity to energy?
Well, I mean, that determination is left for the Nigerian business person. Now, let's take, for instance, if you are into oil and gas in Nigeria, and you branched off or you have a subsidiary that is into technology that powers oil and gas, and you decide that in your business, in your relations with Belgian partners, that you want to focus exclusively on oil and gas, or you want to focus your attention on the technology and the engineering that drives oil and gas. Those are your decisions. Also, if you plant cocoa, and Belgium being the chocolate capital of the world, and a partner out here says, well, I need high quality cocoa bean to be shipped to Belgium, and you say, wait a minute, we could do that, but I think we have better opportunities if we set up operations in Nigeria, process the cocoa, set up a factory that manufactures the cocoa, because we have here a large pool of young men and women, capable, well-educated, highly motivated to work, and you can use them, and cost of production is much less here, as opposed to the Belgian economy that is more or less saturated. So it really depends on the two people in the business, in the conversation. But ultimately, I believe that the opportunities are infinite. And then what we do within the Nigeria, Belgium, Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce is not to drive businesses to a specific model, but we open up all the opportunities and allow them to make informed business decisions.
Yeah, there's a point I was trying to make, Dr. Collins, is the fact that we're talking about so much buzz about the clean energy conversation. And of course, we also know that Europe is moving off fossil fuel, and I'm not too sure whether it's actually because of the challenge it does to the economy, or it is the economic implication of the high cost of energy that we are thinking of alternative. And of course, this conversation has been on since the 1970s. Now, here is what we have, just crude, and nobody's going to buy crude anymore, so we are looking for new businesses. And then we don't have the competencies to drive that business. How does that benefit Nigeria, or indeed other African states?
Indeed, very, very poignant question, Dr. Idahosa, and thank you for asking it. I mean, part of the theme of the business forum that we had last year was the core question: is oil a dead commodity? Now, the answer we got to that question was no, oil is not a dead commodity. You can consider oil as a dying commodity because in other parts of the world, they are actually having a gradual shift from fossil fuel to renewables, like you mentioned. And it's a conversation that has been on for, the better part of the last 40, 50 years. Now, we are proponents of a situation where we open up, opportunities for Nigerian businesses in the renewable energy sector, while also emphasizing the fact that Nigeria needs to do that transition from fossil fuel to renewables at its own speed. You can't be telling my grandmother in the village who cooks with firewood to abandon her firewood and begin to use, for instance, gas in cooking, when you haven't even asked if she has the means to buy herself the gas. And so she will continue, understandably, to use her, firewood. Now, what I can then do as, a grandson in diaspora is to say, okay, I do have linkages with, manufacturers of gas, and so let me encourage them to, invest in gas in Nigeria, so that my grandmother will do away with her firewood, thereby helping in that transition from fossil fuel to renewable, just by way of an example. So no, the West may try as much as they want to actually push Nigeria, towards the renewables, which is a good thing, and everybody understands that. But it has to be at Nigeria's pace. That's number one. And then number two, if they want to make the transition faster, well then, let them invest in Nigeria, because, and it's not philanthropy. Investment means, bringing in your money and investing it in a sector that is viable, a sector that will make you money. And when you do that, you make sure that the profit margin is reasonable, because, take for instance the sun panel, the panel that, they installed to, get energy, in Nigeria, rather than using generators and so on and so forth. It's done everywhere in the world. You ask yourself, why is it so expensive? Couldn't they manufacture and sell it, at affordable, price for Nigerians? These are ongoing conversations where ultimately business decisions have got to be made. So ours, within the Nigeria-Belgium Luxembourg Business Forum, is to push out as much information as possible on both sides and allow people to make informed business decisions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Collins. During your time when you left the country, it was called migration. But these days it's Japa, so you didn't fall under that category. Now, in the op-ed, I saw your analysis about agriculture and how both climes can, meet at a point where we can gain from each other. The yam industry or market or in Nigeria, has been assessed to go into the realms of about $20 billion, and that Nigeria is one of the, highest producers of yam in the world, including cassava. So there's a report that says that Nigeria recently, gained a lot in securing more than $2.7 billion in exporting non-oil products. And there's supposed to be a need for us to facilitate that, to build on that, so that we can continue to gain more advantage. How can the Nigeria and Belgium Forum make sure that they create the enabling not just the environment, but mechanisms to join both local market and foreign market for us to harness this potential?
Thank you, Pray. Well, essentially, at the Nigeria, Belgium, Luxembourg Business Forum, what we do are two main things. Number one is push out objective information, create opportunities for people to interact, to come together through our annual business forum. This year, it will be taking place in Brussels from the 22nd till the 24th of October, where we bring businesses together, from Nigeria to Belgium. And then also, you will ask the question, what about Nigeria? Yes, in April, we are also coming with a small delegation of businesses from Belgium to have interactions both in Lagos and Abuja. So creating that opportunity for them to interact, get people meet, get people to begin to work together. Then the other aspect of what we do is actually locating where those businesses are and then matching them up. We do this through business to business, B2B, or government to business, G2B, whereby we get people that are of like minds in terms of their business interest to now begin to interact, and then we facilitate the deal brokerage. Now, having said that, I will also add that agribusiness, for instance, agricultural innovation and agribusiness expansion, like you pointed out, was one of the areas that I identified in my op-ed. Agro-processing and food export is set to be a lucrative sector to watch. I mean, you also cited the growth of non-oil export. As at 4 or 5 weeks ago, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council actually confirmed that in 2024, the non-oil export grew by over 20%. And I mean, it just didn't happen. It happened as a consequence of some of these, initiatives that seek to, bring businesses together and, facilitate, some sort of lobbying as well, so that they understand out here that some unnecessary, bottlenecks, export bottlenecks, have got to be done away with, but also provide opportunities for people out in Nigeria that are exporting to actually up their game in terms of quality enhancement and so on and so forth. So you see, the opportunities are infinite, but what you don't know, you don't know. And that is where we come in to provide the information necessary. And of course, the op-ed is also positioned in that mindset of pushing out information to enable people make informed decisions.
All right, so let's look at the comparative advantage that Belgium has. It's highly skilled in terms of infrastructure. And in Nigeria, if we look at the real estate sector, we're talking about housing deficits. We have developers here and there trying to develop houses for Nigerians, but some of them are not very affordable because of the type of houses that we build. If we have that partnership between Nigerian businesses and Belgian businesses and those in Luxembourg as well, what kind of advantage would that give Nigeria's real estate sector? These days, the world is moving from horizontal development to vertical development when it comes to housing. What advantage would that bring for Nigeria?
Huge advantage. I mean, like you said, housing deficit is a huge one in Nigeria. And I must, I must also add that basically everywhere in the world, and that includes Belgium, where I am, housing deficit, is everywhere, but of course, it's more in, one place than the other. Now, in their efforts to actually tackle the housing deficit, quite a lot of, technologies have been, developed out here. And so what we are telling, business people in the real estate business out here in Belgium and Luxembourg is to say, well, some of these expertise that you have developed over the years, Nigeria needs it and needs it like yesterday, not even today or tomorrow. So one of the things that we put on the table is the modular housing solutions and sustainable construction materials. And they are, in high demand investment areas for builders from Belgium and Luxembourg. And so, some of these construction companies are listening to those, gospel, if you want, and are taking interest in coming to invest in Nigeria. Now, just related to that is also a smart city, concept, because Lagos and Abuja are arguably the fastest expanding technology hubs in sub-Saharan Africa, with smart city initiatives and real estate development. So, Belgian firms, specializing in urban planning, green architecture, and smart energy grids, can contribute to these projects, in predominantly in Lagos and Abuja. And so we are encouraging them, to do that. And Nigerians, who are in that space, now they know that because Belgium is, big in not only technology, but also research and development, there are ample opportunities for them to, link up and either expand or actually solidify their business more.
Okay, Doc, very brilliant submissions there. But I want to find out also, are there opportunities to see Belgian pharmaceutical company actually also investing in the herbal sector in Nigeria? Take, for example, we're importing a lot of chemicals and pharmaceuticals from Belgium, where we have a lot of curative herbs in this place that are undeveloped. And many of us grew up using those herbs, and they were quite efficacious before we had these big farmers really moving around the entire world. Is there an opportunity for that collaboration so that we can also develop what we have internally, apart from just shipping what is already produced to this country?
Absolutely, Dr. Idahosa. And you probably know, because obviously you have this thing with research, you probably have found out in your research that, organic food, but also organic medicine, which is where I can actually position the use of herbs, natural herbs in Nigeria, which, like you said, growing up in Nigeria myself, I know them to be efficacious. This is something that is of high demand, and year in, year out, it is getting very, very popular out here in Belgium. And so the everyday Belgian and Luxembourg person are stepping away from more emphasis on chemicals and focus on organic, medicine. And so Belgium, being a technology savvy country, quite a lot of technologies have been developed around that. And it is no surprise because, firms like Protex Healthcare, a Belgian, firm, owned by a certain Dominic Vianney, have been in Nigeria for quite a while. And as we speak, they are actually, building a $1 billion headquarters for West Africa, actually right there in Abuja, helping to, seal partnerships with, different federal health centers, teaching hospitals, and also building local capacity in some of these areas, including, the exploration of, herbal medicine for production in Nigeria, and then ultimately, exporting them to Belgium using Belgium technology. So yes, those things, they've made an early start, but more opportunities are there to explore.
Thank you so much, Dr. Collins. Now, one aspect I would like to take you to now, it is the current administration of Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu, that actually created or seemed to formalize the solid mineral sector by appointing a minister to fill that space, the Minister of Solid Minerals. And in this drive towards green economy, which we want to believe Belgium is currently very, very strong in, they will be looking at green economy and production activities that will be less detrimental to the climate because of climate change issues. We have cobalt, like you mentioned. We have lithium, and we have other solid minerals that are very, very good for industrial purposes that could be used to produce the batteries for electric vehicles. In issues like this, like you mentioned earlier, will this sort of bring in interactions that will cite industries in Nigeria, not only for the advantage of Nigeria, but also to promote the green economy initiative that is, taking place, that is holding sway over there in Belgium, but to also promote it here in Nigeria, but having advantage to tap into the solid minerals sector for the benefit of both parties?
Absolutely, Pray. Like you actually pointed out, one of the 7, investment trends that I recommended that people should watch is mining rare earths and battery materials. Nigeria holds untapped reserve of lithium, cobalt, and rare earth minerals. This is really, really critical for electric vehicle, the batteries that electric vehicle uses for their production and the supply chain. This offers very, very serious opportunities for factories, for businesses in Belgium and Luxembourg that are actually producing that have the battery technology and sustainable mining. So, like you mentioned, now, if people feel more comfortable actually taking the solid minerals out of Nigeria, exporting them, to produce in their factories out in Belgium and Luxembourg, it is their choice. But what we have noticed is that more and more people are actually finding it, to make a lot more business sense if operations are set up in Nigeria, because overhead is less. You are dealing with a business environment that is very, very, that is still virgin. You are also looking at a workforce, that is very, very ready to learn, young and dynamic young people. And it could be that the skills needed may not immediately be on the ground, but we can learn from the examples of Protex Healthcare that actually, bring in resource persons to Nigeria to build the capacity of, his local staff, rather than importing local staff from Belgium or Luxembourg to come and work in Nigeria. So it makes all the business sense in the world that you bring the training into Nigeria, set up your operations like he's doing. And so we are encouraging within the Nigeria-Belgium Luxembourg Business Council, we're encouraging businesses to think along that line so that you mine in Nigeria, set up operation in Nigeria, produce, and then, serve the Africa, the market, the African sub-regional market, but also from that point serve the Western market as well.
Yeah. Okay, Doc, do you think that that model will be quite lucrative for business-minded people? I just was looking at data from Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, where we have to import in one quarter over $336 billion dollars of solar panels, and the electricity we sold in that same period was just 79 billion. So look at the trading balance. So we are buying more as we are selling. And again, you are looking at there's really no market in West Africa, especially because of the level of poverty in the nations that are around Africa. Do you think that a lot of people in Luxembourg or Belgium will be willing to move their resource to Nigeria to set up?
Well, I believe that in the initial stage, it's going to be, and we are finding that, when we started this, annual conference business forum 3 years ago, we noticed the hesitation for exactly the same reason that, you have given. But they now also, understand the economies of scale. And so what that means essentially is that, when it is upscaled, the overhead will fall, and then the market will expand, and then, profitability sets in. Initially, yes, you might, struggle, but also government comes in as well. Take the solar panel, for instance. Government, because they see the potential in it in the long term, and that's what business government should be doing, thinking more in the long term and providing not only the enabling environment, but also the financial incentives to actually achieve that long-term goal. And then, because business, the essence of setting up business is to make profit. So it is not for you to begin to think of the profit you are going to make in 20 years' time when you are, actually incurring some loss at the initial stage, because your business might not survive, the next 10 years, how much less the next 20. So that's where government comes in to show up, some of those potential loss, and then make it lucrative, for people in that space. So yes, I agree that in the short term, that might pose quite some challenges. But we also know that within the institutions of the European Union, there are quite a number of funds available. Some are grants, some are low interest loans that are available to actually facilitate investment specifically in clean energy. Now, if you don't have that information, you don't have it. And that's where, the Chamber of Commerce that actually powers the business forum is called the CBL APC, ACP. So that's where they come in terms of, doing research, matching funds deposited within the European, institutions with laudable initiatives, because it is in EU's best interest that, the shift from fossil fuel to, clean energy is accelerated, and they are putting money on the ground to help, achieve that. So that could also equally be injected in those businesses to make them, sustainable and profitable ab initio.
Now let's look at the shipping industry in Belgium and in Luxembourg. Now, because of the location of Belgium, it's more like the commercial hub of Europe and how central it is to other parts of Europe. But Nigeria struggles in its shipping industry that is dominated by foreign partners. Sometime in 2021, the DG of NIMASA had sought a partnership with Belgian firms in the area of shipping recycling in Nigeria. Beyond that, are there certain collaborations Nigeria can explore directly with Belgium to improve the shipping industry or even at large the maritime industry?
Yes, indeed. Seaport and logistics expansion beckons, in Nigeria in the next decade more than ever before. We have Belgian companies, for instance, Jan de Nul, Demi Group. These are Belgian indigenous country. They already have domineering presence in Nigeria's dredging, port management, and logistics. And there are other players, in the area of shipping and logistics. I recall back in Nigeria, they used to, once you mentioned this, Tokumbo vehicle, no matter what part of Europe it comes from, people will always say, Belgium car. Why? Because Antwerp, which is probably, one of the, largest seaports in the world, is actually here in Belgium, where these shipping operations take place. So, some sort of, let me say, smallholders in terms of, family businesses that are specialized, for instance, in shipbuilding, ship repairs, and all of that. They are also, taking initial interest in transferring knowledge and expertise to Nigeria, while, as a business forum, we create the linkages between the shipping firms, small and medium-sized shipping firms, because it doesn't necessarily have to be the Demis of the world, the Jan de Nuls of the world. No, there is also space for small players, medium-sized companies to link up with counterparts in Nigeria. Recently, I was talking with the president of Anglomal Shipping and Logistics Limited, a firm based in Port Harcourt, and they too, have shown interest in linking up with partners of similar size out here in Belgium and Luxembourg. So yes, the opportunities there are very, very much, and through public-private partnership as well, some of these business transactions could be activated and facilitated.
Okay, now look at all this perspective and this relationship we're trying to foster, bilateral trade agreements and relationships. Now, what are the perceived challenges and bottlenecks that may be encountered, and what are the methodologies that have been set in line to ameliorate them? That's number one. Number two is this. Let's assume there's a smooth collaboration from both parties. In terms of monetary value, what will be your forecast?
Well, let's start with the challenges. The most common that we know about is, regulatory frameworks that are either complicated, or even when they are, as simple as ABC, businesses don't take sufficient time to, look them up and then, actually see what is in them and then, comply with them. Now, those businesses, Belgian businesses I'm talking about now, who have had their fingers burned as a consequence of, doing business in Nigeria and have pulled out, have now done some analysis. We help them out there as well. And then they discovered that if they used specialized services to navigate, the terrain, and I mean, it's not exclusive for Nigeria or Belgium, it's everywhere. I mean, there have to be rules and regulations, there have to be quality control measures put in place to ensure that, things are done and done, correctly. Now, if you don't know it, you don't know it. And that's why, one of our partners is A-Law International that specializes in foreign trade, where they, take, businesses that are actually trying to enter either into the Belgian market or Belgian firms that want to enter into the Nigerian market. They take them through the ropes in terms of guiding them through, the compliance, procedure. And so that way, you focus as a business on the core business itself, which is transacting and leave the legal aspect of it to those who know better. That's number one challenge. Number two challenge, and related to the first one, is of course lack of information. And that is why for us, the chamber itself, the parent body that anchors, the business forum, it is important that information, is brought to the people, and that's why on April 8, April 9, and April 10, we will be, having, business reception in Lagos, one in Lagos, and then two in, in Abuja, actually targeting top business, executives, business leaders in general, to come together, get information about what is available and what they need to do to prevent their fingers being burnt.
Let's also look at what Nigeria can provide for businesses in Belgium and Luxembourg. What do you think they'll be hoping to benefit from this partnership?
You mean the Nigerian businesses, or?
What do you think Nigerian businesses can provide businesses in Belgium and Luxembourg? What do you think they'll be hoping to benefit from this collaboration?
Oh, yeah, indeed. Good question, Blessing. Now, essentially, like I said earlier, the essence of business is to make profit. And so, first and foremost, you have to be clear about what you are selling. I mean, it could be goods, it could be services, okay? Whichever it is, be clear about it. Now, once we, as, deal brokers, understand what, you are selling, and it is well packaged, we now look for the partners out here that are actually looking for the same thing that that you are selling. Take, for instance, if you manufacture goods in Nigeria, or you are looking for technical partners, you have the idea, but the technicality isn't there to be able to bring your business idea to fruition. The engineering required, the machineries and all of that, as you know, Belgium is also very, very big in engineering. So what we do is, once we understand what you want to do, and we identify the requirements in terms of technology, in terms of engineering, but also raw material, we simply make the match, between the demand and the supply. Now, I could go very specific, with products, but it is not, actually necessary. But I believe that this is the global picture to be painted. Now, be clear about what you are selling, goods, products, services, and then we advise on how best to package it, and then we, link you up with, the demand side out here in Belgium, and so it becomes a win-win for both the Nigerian business person and the Belgium-Luxembourg business person as well.
Okay, thank you so very much. Still, again, back to the conversation on renewables, especially the transition that's happening in Europe. Africa is again heavily relied on to supply the non-renewable. Are there also opportunity to mitigate that effect from Europe on Africa?
Well, yes, indeed. The opportunity to mitigate the effect is there. And I will cite one example, very recent one. In September 2024, we're talking of, some 6 months away, Belgium implemented stricter regulations around fuel export. This is essentially, limits the permitted sulfur content to 50 parts per million. The move aligns with, similar Dutch, regulations, which led to significant reduction in gasoline export, from the Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Antwerp axis, what they call the ARA, hub to West Africa. Now, and that includes Nigeria, of course. Now, the most obvious effect of that is, okay, it will definitely, and it has, affected a number of businesses. Some have argued that that is a bit of, arm twisting. But you see, to compensate for that, Belgium is also, creating a number of incentives to, accelerate, the transition to, clean energy. And so what we are saying is, okay, those who still feel comfortable, transacting in oil and gas and fossil fuel, fine, but realize that that is not where the future is. The transition, you can do that at your pace. And so one of the gospels that we preach is the Western world. If you want the transition to be accelerated, well, be ready to invest in the sector. This is not, a message that they immediately buy, but you begin to see signs of, the readiness to invest in clean energy technology in Africa. And so it is up to, Africans, Nigerians, Nigeria as a leading economy there, to also begin to think in that direction. Those that are in similar sector, can, diversify or new businesses set up in the area of clean energy.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Collins Wike, for providing us an overview on the opportunities that are inherent in Belgium-Nigeria collaboration. I do hope that business investors have been looking at this. On a final note, let's look at the role of development banks, the role of financial institutions in this partnership from both ends, from Belgium, Luxembourg, and Nigeria. What role can they play to foster these partnerships?
Right. For a start, the African Development Bank, under the able leadership of our very own Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who recently, by the way, got Kenya's, highest, national merit award, has in his time as the president of, African Development Bank, has developed quite a sizable number of, instruments to power particularly, the agricultural sector in Nigeria. Now, the Import-Export, bank, African Import-Export Bank, does have a number of, instruments to facilitate, particularly transition from, fossil fuel to, clean energy, but also more importantly, export-based businesses, to reduce import and encourage more of export. So some of these facilities, they exist, but we know that, information about them are more or less hidden to the average business person. And that is why what we do out here in Belgium is to give information to entrepreneurs about the availability of certain grants, low interest rates, and no interest rate facilities within the European Investment Bank. Even private banks, some of them are also, participating in that. And then you have the angel funds as well, that support small and medium-sized enterprises. So we link them up with those institutions within the chamber, and then similar things taking place in Nigeria. Now, we know that the commercial banks in Nigeria, there are still huge challenges in terms of their preparedness to lend at affordable cost. But the conversations are ongoing, and hopefully very soon, they will make it easier for businesses to lend.
Many thanks for being on the show today. We hope to have you another time soon, as maybe we might just be looking at the investment opportunities, the business trends in other parts of the world.
My pleasure. Thank you so very much for having me. Have a great weekend.
Come to Nigeria in April.
Yes, and you need to be there. Are you in Abuja or Lagos?
Lagos.
Lagos. Well, I'm having the invitation sent to you right away. Prayer and blessing, all three of you. We need to gather together there.
We do. Thanks again, Dr. Collins Wike, who is a foreign policy commentator. We'll be looking at the business trends in Belgium, Luxembourg, and Nigeria. What partnership opportunities can these countries explore? Yes, as an investor, I do hope you've learned a lot and you are now calculating and looking at what you can offer, what those in Belgium and Luxembourg can offer you as well. Let's take a break. When I return, we'll be talking about social media, what's happening there. There's a new bill that is still second reading at the Senate. What is that? You find out when we return from the break.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, Souq enlightenment. The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of large green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment.
A bill that seeks to amend the Nigeria Data Protection Act 2023 is passed for second reading at the Senate. Now, this bill was sponsored by Senator Ned Nwoko on the grounds that the bill will ensure that Nigeria gets revenue from social media platforms once they have physical offices within the territory of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And the bill also seeks to ensure that bloggers would have a list and record of their staff. So some social media platform operators have already, or some social media, those who are in the social media industry, content creators and some others have begun to ask what's going on. Is this targeting social media users? Is this a way to ensure that they don't use social media as they want? But the sponsor of the bill is saying it is not targeted as social media users. It is not targeted as content creators, but it is to ensure that the country can get revenue from the different social media platforms, and also to address certain challenges that have come up with bloggers blogging. So the bloggers should have a record of their staff. Pray.
Okay, I remember briefly we referenced this conversation yesterday, and I was talking about how they need to have a presence here, build an office, have employees who would have been trained, and who, when you have their their presence here, there's need for you to employ physical people to work for an organization, and how this will benefit the economy and Nigeria. And I remember vividly, Doc was talking about filing tax returns. And that took me to last year when the Biden administration, by way of constituting a Senate committee, invited the owner of Facebook, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, and a few other social media giants, and were asking questions regarding to data protection and if the data of young people, of teenagers, and any other persons are well protected, and if the social media or they are not, infiltrating people's data using information technology. We move away from that from the United States. Some other countries are fining Meta and Facebook with lots of file return, tax returns, accusations against them that they are evading tax, and how they need to pay their tax remittances for how those organizations and how the country can function well. They move away from that aspect to another aspect where we started talking about how even if you are a blogger or you are a content creator, you need to start paying taxes and a regulatory arm. So there is this mixed feelings, and this recent development could be seen as, though it's a mixed feelings, it could be seen as a way of government putting its feet down or trying to mean business to make sure we're also getting something from the content creators and the social media operators. But one question needs to be asked. We are not very, very clear about this proposed policy yet.
Well, I think if you look at what the Senate is trying to do is to see how this ungoverned space is actually being addressed. As we speak right now, the social media, especially in the age of Web 1.30, where anybody become a content creator and there are no liabilities attached to it. This also is an area that people are talking about, because if you go, for example, in Europe and America right now, what they're talking about is AI governance, because the law does not capture it. And the law did not envisage that there will be AI. Now, I can imagine what kind of conversation we are going to have in court if cases is arising from social media. Because the people who are the framer of the law are writing law to address issues that are within their time of living. Those who wrote 1999 Constitution, you can imagine some of them are long dead. And of course, they are not here to witness the advent of blockchain and AI. So there's no way those things will have been factored into the law. So as long as country lives, the dynamics continue. The lawmakers are always there to ensure that the laws that govern the Republic is updated from time to time. And this is quite very important, because we're living in an age where a lot of untruths are also out there that can lead people to dying. And people just get out there because they want to trend, as they call it in today's language, and falsehoods are peddled. And of course, these addresses you don't know. Nobody traces where these IPs are coming from. And all this creates a lot of problems. Remember, there was a time that Mr. President himself said that he doesn't even go there because they abuse the hell out of him in the social media space. And some of us are even afraid to go there because of the level of bullying that is out there in that space. So the need to regulate it become really very, very germane in my view. But on the other side of it is also to look at those who are also supplying these services, the need for them to be domesticated. But really beyond the task, if you look at it, because the real trade war now between Europe and America is even centered around this. Because if you look at the body language of Donald Trump, he's actually saying, you are overtaxing our people. You are fining them unnecessarily, even without law. And because they are American businesses, and so we are going to retaliate. So I think that balance had to be drawn some ways so that, of course, while we are trying to regulate their space, we also don't a kind of create forced relationship with our partners out there.
Well, I think this issue of social media platforms having physical offices in Nigeria has been a dragging one, because remember that during the time when we had Lai Mohammed as Minister for Information, he also brought that up. And then the argument on the side of the government has been that they want to be able to tax the social media platforms, because when they do not have offices here, it's quite hard to do all of that. So citing offices here would mean that the government will be able to get revenue from them as they make a lot of money operating in Nigeria. So it's more like it's almost abstract when it's fully on the digital space and there's no physical presence. So it looks like the company doesn't operate here. So how then do you begin to tax them? Then I think it also it will help in terms of accountability and addressing certain issues. When you have physical presence within a country you operate in, you're more likely to comply with the policies governing your sector than when you do not have physical offices within that country. For the bloggers issue, I think that's very important. That's very important. Even if you are the only one operating your blog site as a blogger, so you are the owner and staff, let's also know who you are. Because people have abused that, the fact that, oh, so because I'm blogging, I'm operating within a digital space, you don't have a face and sometimes even a name to the blog. So they can use that to say all sorts of malicious things about people. It's as if now having a blog is equal to having a medium that gives you the leeway to say what you want to say about anybody, not even caring whether there is truth to it, there is fact to it. So it's more like a tool for blackmail, a tool for maliciousness. And one of the ways to curb it would be, let's have name to this. Let's have faces to this. Part of the reason conventional media rely on fact and they have to push fact is because there is the NBC, the National Broadcasting Commission, that regulates the activities of broadcasters. And there is face and name to it. So a station airs or says something malicious or defames a person, you have the station to hold accountable. You have the presenter or whoever it is that said that to hold accountable. But when a blog site publishes things that there is no backing to the factualness of that, who do you hold? And sometimes when investigations are done, the person who, or the details of the person who registered that blog site, it's hard to even trace who the exact person is. So it's more like people are hiding behind a lot of opaqueness to carry out evil.
All right.
So it is not that the social media users or content creators or bloggers would be gagged, but it's just saying that you want to do this, let's know who your staff are, so that when there is a complaint of defamation, there is a complaint of unethical practice, we know who to hold accountable. And I think that would, to a great extent, bring sanity into the blog space, because we've seen a lot of abuse, a lot of bullying, a lot of blackmailing ongoing.
Okay, so for the
cannot survive it.
All right. so the thing is this: whilst you made a reference to the conventional media. Whilst making reference to the conventional media, we also must remember there have been times in this country where the government of the day had to go shut down conventional media offices, physical offices. There had been different administrations, federal governments, in this country where they shut down newspaper offices, television stations were besieged by military men and police officers. In fact, there are some presenters, immediately they are done with their shows, the producer and the presenter will be hauled away by the DSS. There had been cases like that in the history of the media in Nigeria. So, if you have a physical presence, there are things you say. Sometimes it's not that those things are not factual. It's that your criticism of the authorities at that specific point in time, the authorities just could not handle it. It's not that there's no handler.
In the case of bloggers, do we really have
I'm coming to that.
Criticizing government?
I'm coming to that.
Or they're attacking personalities?
I'm coming to that. So when they do that, sometimes when the conventional media does that, the government or the authorities during those period of time are gone overboard to make sure that they shut down operations, and it will send fear. So social media presents a platform where people can say, okay, now let me stand on this leg first. I can give a constructive criticism to the government without fear of being located and arrested because the federal or the government feels or thinks I'm touching a nerve. In that particular extent, we can say social media presents a space, protective space, where people can, without any form of intimidation, air their views and not be intimidated or chased up and down by the government.
Okay.
As far as the case where you say people use social media as a tool to carry out malicious activities or defame characters, there have been instances where people do those things and they've been apprehended.
How many have been
Okay,
apprehended?
fine. Let's say the number
Let's
is
not even
small.
mention a
Let's
very
say the
popular
number
one.
is small, but we have to make sure that, because the government has placed itself in a place whereby it cannot be trusted, even when they are criticized and they come out against whoever is criticizing them.
How many blogs in Nigeria criticize government, whether constructively or otherwise? A lot of blogs are after personalities.
Oh, there are different blogs.
A lot.
Sometimes the personalities they are out against are in government.
No. The personalities that most times they are even after are celebrities, and these are human beings too. Now, you have the right as a blog to create content, but you do not have the right to intimidate people using your blog to spread lies or to spread unfounded content, unfounded material about people. You can blogs usually, when blogs started, it's just that, see, when there is no rule or policy guiding the way a practice is done, you would have abuse. Let me respond to what you were saying regarding conventional media. Yes, there have been times, even during the military era, where journalists or media houses were scared to speak truth to power or to hold governments accountable. Yes, there are those cases. And there are also cases where even in civilian dispensation, in democratic dispensation, we've seen some of those things happen. But look, let's tell ourselves the truth. For some of the media houses that have been slammed with sanctions from the NBC, there are codes. There are codes of conduct.
I wasn't talking about the NBC. I was talking about the government.
The government does that through the NBC. The government would not outrightly go to any media house and shut it down. It is the NBC that will fine.
The newspapers that was shut down in Abuja, the government did not go through the NBC. It just shuts it down.
The NBC does not preside over newspapers. It is called the National Broadcasting Commission. It is broadcast that is superintended over, not newspapers.
When you say government has organs.
It has agencies as
well. It has agencies that are regulatory practices. So when you are saying government, you see, it's an amorphous term. You cannot hold it. So anything that NBC does is done on behalf of government. Anything DPRO done is done on behalf of government. These are agencies that are empowered by the Constitution to run the environment and regulate it on behalf of all of us. One man can't wake up in the morning and shut down a newspaper house.
Let's even look at the ones that are shut. What led to them being shut or fined?
So you have to look at it. It could be...
Don't we also have media houses that have aired
you can see that DSS can go there. Now, that the fact that DSS have gone there does not mean that it is Mr. President or the head of Senate that said they should go there. So we must understand that government is an amalgam of different agencies, different institutions who come together, and of course they have their mandate. Some of them are derivable from the Constitution of the Federal Republic. They are established by that act of Parliament, and so they are operating. Now, so when you keep saying government,
yes.
I don't understand what you mean. No, NBC is run by NBC is part of government.
Okay, so now let me say this. NBC currently, as we speak, I think there's the latest in NBC fining media houses is that the current verdict that was given is that NBC, by the courts, that NBC does not have the right to fine media houses.
How do
anymore.
you mean? How do you mean
That's
that
the latest.
They do not have the
it
right
is
to
not
fine
me. It's coming
no,
from
I
the,
want you
it's
to
coming
clarify.
from the court.
I want you to clarify that court judgment. Is it a blanket judgment that the NBC does not have the right to fine media houses on certain matters, or the NBC as the regulator of the media industry in Nigeria, media sector in Nigeria, doesn't have the right
I don't want to start mentioning
sanction
I don't want to start
media houses who flout the code.
See, if they are sanctioning media
because
houses,
sanction comes
if
with
this
fines.
is not coming from me, it's coming from the courts.
That's why I want
and
to
if the
clarify what
courts,
the
if the
says.
courts gave that verdict, it is simply saying the NBC. It's not that you cannot sanction, but you cannot impose a fine.
Sanctions come with fines.
It cannot,
That's why they are
it is
sanctions.
not me. It's the
If
court
just-
that said that. Now,
Please
when
clarify
the
that.
court said that because there were radio stations. And of course, one of the biggest television stations in Nigeria, in Lagos, that were fined 5 million, 3 million naira just because one of them interviewed one of the persons or outlawed group by the government. And there were other cases where the radio presenter the radio station was fined because they felt the radio presenter was unable to
They felt,
tame,
or
just,
was the
just a
presenter
moment.
actually
Just a
unable to
moment.
moderate
They
the
felt the
conversation?
allegation by the NBC against the radio station was that they were unable to, the presenter was unable to coordinate and tame the usage of word of the guest on that program, and 5 million naira went.
Okay,
3
so
million
let me
naira
ask
went.
you,
Now I'm
did
coming,
you
I'm
watch-
getting somewhere. I'm
before you
heading
get to where you're
somewhere.
going,
I'm
let's
heading
address
somewhere.
issues as we go on.
Yes.
So that we don't leave anything untouched.
I am not.
Or-
I'm just
or
trying to
clarify.
lay.
So did you watch that particular interview to ascertain if NBC's judgment was wrong or
I
right?
watched that interview. Now, before I answer that question, the thing is, I watched that interview. One thing I want to paint out is this. Media station, it is capital intensive to run a media organization.
Sure.
Be it radio, be it television station. And these are on the platform of conventional media. And the people in government understands this. They also understand that these are one of the eyes, are one of the institutions that can hold them to account. Little wonder, we are called the fourth realm of the estate. And if we do that, and through an arm of the government.
Yeah, but you see.
No. So through an arm of the government is now coming to say you did this, that, and the other. We want to make sure we stifle your way of operation by stifling your finances to operate. Now, that is that. Now, for the other spaces.
So how do you regulate?
No, now regulations. No. The reason the court has given a verdict concerning that.
Yeah,
sanction,
see,
yes.
these
fine. The court said no.
When we started the
fine.
show this
The
morning,
court said no.
I
So
said,
now,
this morning I just knew what it means that lawyers are called learned men because they can be so confused.
Really?
Oh yes, and I think these are some of the issues that even as we speak, the Supreme Court ruling has been turned back, forth, and center in the public domain.
The public domain is not a court.
Wait, I understand. It's not a court. Even lawyers, retired Supreme Court judges. And see, judgments are good. But you see, the truth is that we have to be careful what kind of society we are forming. Is it that we really want anarchy so that people can do everything without caution? I'll give you one simple example. WhatsApp message went out during Ebola that people should be bathing with salt. Oh, yes.
Yes, there were lots of.
I remember that day how my mother was calling me in the dead of the night whether I have meat salt with water to bath. You see, those mischief makers in society, you see, when you are looking at something, don't look at one side. Stand on the other side and look at it. A number of people, a number of lives and personality that have been damaged by very terrible posts by people who just want simple popularity. And so, how do you deal with these issues? So you just allow them to run riots, and then the state just fold their hand because you are advocating for freedom. You see, where your freedom ends, that's where another man's freedom begins. So you cannot use your freedom because you have freedom to express yourself. Then you have to infringe on my freedom. That is the reason why the state exists. To ensure that there's a point where you understand where you have the limit of your freedom and I have the limit of my freedom, and then we can live within that environment and we're not damaging each other and we are not offending each other.
All right, let's take a break. We'll return shortly.
My name is Souq. I'm the CEO of Gozi Micro Insurance. Continue to watch Souq News.
Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoin you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hey everyone, Majuli Obaje here representing Gigi. Keep watching Souq News, okay? Stay updated with Souq News.
My name is Aton Keme. I am the head of MSME banking. Please keep watching Souq News and stay glued to Souq News.
I recommend that more and more people should watch Souq News because they deal with business news.
Hi, my name is Amaka Wokolo. I am the director of the Faith Institute at Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Augmented reality, AR, is a technology that merges computer-generated images with the user's real-world view, creating a composite experience. This interactive experience integrates various sensory modalities, such as things you can see, hear, and even feel, making the experience interactive and immersive. In recent years, the emergence of this transformative technology has seamlessly integrated digital and physical realms. This groundbreaking innovation relies on specialized hardware like smartphones and smart glasses equipped with cameras and sensors, AR software, and Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core. Then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR software such as Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR's applications span diverse industries from gaming to education, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. In education, AR enhances learning through interactive and dynamic experiences, while in healthcare, it aids surgical planning and medical training. Retail experiences are transformed as AR enables customers to virtually try on products and visualize furniture in their homes. Despite its potential, AR faces challenges such as technical advancements and user privacy concerns. Overcoming these hurdles will unlock even more seamless and immersive AR experiences, making it an integral part of our daily lives. As technology progresses, the horizon for AR broadens, promising a future where our interactions with the world are richer and more interconnected. Augmented reality is not just a trend, it's a revolution shaping the way we live, learn, and work. Goma Fortune, Souq News.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo,
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. We're still on policy discourse. Yes, we've been talking about the bill that seeks to amend the Data Protection Act 2023, which has been passed for second reading at the Senate, and the bill is sponsored by Senator Ned Nwoko. So in the course of the conversation, I don't know if to call him now my learned colleague, he's a media practitioner.
You have to be very afraid.
He's a media practitioner, but whether he wants to change career path, I don't know. So he was talking about it was citing a court injunction given when there was a case between the NBC and some TV station. So the suit followed the decision by the NBC to impose a fine of 5 million naira each on Trust TV, MultiChoice Nigeria Limited, NTA, StarTimes, Telcom Satellites, over documentaries on terrorism in Nigeria. So the judgment of the court declared that the NBC and its agents lack the legal power and authority to impose penalty unlawfully and unilaterally. So there is a clause. You lack the power, NBC lacks the power to impose sanctions, to impose a penalty unlawfully and unilaterally. Not that the NBC does not have the power to impose fines or penalties on stations that have flouted the NBC codes. As of today, the NBC is still the regulatory agency of media stations or media practitioners in Nigeria.
And I think what the judge is trying to say is that you have to establish that an offense has been committed before a fine can apply. So that's fairness, that's some level of justice. So I can't say, okay, you are guilty, I fine you, but you have to establish it within the ambit of the law. And then, of course, you can actually dictate who gets the fine.
The NBC, the fine that they imposed, and the court gave a judgment that they lack the constitutional right to impose a fine.
Unlawfully, don't forget to add that.
No, okay, in my own copy, it doesn't have unlawfully.
Maybe you should check it out.
No, you cannot say yours is correct and mine is
no,
not.
I'm not. I didn't write it there.
I didn't write it too.
Are you
and it's coming from the law.
Two
and
different
it's coming from the court. So the other thing is this.
Word having different meaning.
Media Rights Organization was the one that took NBC to court. Media Rights Agency was the one that took NBC to court. And the other thing that one must, there was never been a time that the NBC had taken the side of media organizations. It is an arm of government to strictly stifle the media. And if any NBC had been very, very
media stations. Well, I don't concur with that because there are trainings even. Yes, the code on some areas might be stringent, but it does not mean that it is out there the NBC is out there to stifle or to gag the media. So the NBC even organizes trainings for media practitioners and media houses, explaining the codes and how you can practice ethically to be sure that you do not flout this. The NBC is out there to stifle media practitioners or media operations in Nigeria. Talking about the hammer, every regulator carries a hammer. The CBN carries a hammer. The CBN imposes sanctions on airing bans. So that's what the regulator does. But we should do that in the way that the practice can be fair. Like I said, there's always room for improvement. The bill has only been passed for second reading. Let's see what happens. Of course, due consultations will be made with relevant stakeholders at the end of the day. Let's go over now to Swift Aderito for your comments on the issues that have been discussed today on Post and Perspectives.
And welcome back. Like they tell you, the room is hot, the fire is burning, but what can we do? We can only shield and take a bit of it. That's Post and Perspective, basically what the show is all about. Is to find out what you're saying. We love to hear from you and, of course, review what you're saying and say thank you for being with us and making time out, taking time out to comment. So the very first topic I'm running through today is NYSC DG announces 77,000 Naira allowance for core members starting from March 2025. And we have Niger Plus News. And it says 77 what? Sounds nice, but we just hope it's not another fake promise. By the end of March, we don't want to hear excuses like payment is processing or only some people have received it. And let's be real, the way prices are going up, 77 won't do much. What we need is not just a higher pay, but a better economy where money would actually have value. And another person here has to be Olaleko. And Olalekon says, can't we all just pretend we didn't hear them for once? This slang don't fade, I beg. Talking about a slang faded, my brother who is almost a learned colleague, Mr. Priye, do you believe that there's going to be some money from NYC or there may just be another story again?
Okay. First, I'm not a lawyer, so you can't call me a learned colleague.
No,
it is the conspiracy of Doc, Blessing, and Swift. So, yes, I have said it before. 77,000 naira, yes, fine. But we should have it. If every 5 years we are supposed to review, conduct, maybe another population census, maybe 5 years or more, 7 years or 10 years, we need to conduct another population census. If the NBS, in collaboration with other financial institutions in Nigeria, are looking forward to rebasing the Nigeria economy within a specified period of time, then we also should be looking at the economic strength, considering inflation and other economic, strangulating activities that will be, shortchanging the purchasing power of the average Nigerian. And for our NYSC core members, today is 77,000 naira. So the government should be looking at, maybe in the next 3 years, we should move it to 150,000 naira.
Wait, some people are actually saying 200. So
200,000 naira. Yes, 200. There is nothing wrong with that. We should be looking at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Brilliantly said. All right, so the next topic that was treated is talking about Senate moves to mandate social media offices in Nigeria. And the first person is Jasper. Jasper, how you doing? What's up? You say, I expect a bill that would establish technological incubation hubs all over the country, 24/7 electricity, so that people will be inventing social media platforms, etc. in Nigeria. Our journey is still long. Another person is Unjoku. And Unjoku says, you should all first start defining bloggers. Anyone with an account on social media is asking, are they bloggers? You are not even talking about how to make people's businesses easy, but how to make control easier for the government. This mindset of a failed government, it says, good luck with that. Blessed, I'm throwing it over to you. Because I know that once in a while, I feel I'm a blogger because I have a social media account.
We need to define what blogger is.
Keep blogging.
Oh gosh, doctor. So people are saying, look, is this really necessary? Is this the problems we have now, or should some economical, things be put in place? What's your take?
Okay, let's begin from the question, is this the problem that Nigeria has now? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that there are certain activities that affect the lives, businesses of people. Now, because it's not adding 1 naira to your pockets now, or it doesn't translate to you having increased number of power supply in your house or business, or it doesn't translate to you buying petrol at a cheaper rate, or you driving on a smooth, motorable road, doesn't mean it is not a problem in the nation. Yeah. So let's not relegate issues. Let's weigh the impact of issues first. Now let's look at the impact of bloggers. Now there are content creators, there are bloggers who has that as their means of livelihood. That's their mainstay. They make money from it because they get adverts and other things. Some of them have even become influencers.
Yes.
But how do you practice? You're a blogger, you're writing stories, or you could be a vlogger doing video commentary on certain issues. You're more like a commentator, a social commentator. So that's fine. But how do you go about it? Do you target people? Do you spread news, rumors about people that you do not have fact about? Are you a rumor peddler? Are you someone who defames people, who bullies, intimidates people? Is that what you do? Now, if this is what we find happening on our social media space and it's become a problem that affects families, that has driven people to have mental issues, depression, because one blogger chose to target them. Maybe because they're a celeb and you think this person as a celeb should have thick skin, but there's a level to which thick skin can hold because every human has emotions, they have feelings. You say things about people's businesses, it affects their sales. You don't care. You come up to say a social media space nobody can regulate. I have freedom of speech. Where your freedom stops is where somebody else's own starts. So I think it is necessary that certain regulation should come into the social media space. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, foreign climes that we copy and say the government wants to gag in foreign, this level of abuse doesn't even happen as much, doesn't happen there as much as it happens here. Here is an all-comers affair. People do what they say and do what they say what they like. Some will now come and say allegedly, after saying what you want to say, allegedly. Let's consider that these are actual human beings. So I think it is necessary. However, it should not be done in a way that gags the media. But saying that bloggers should have clear record of their stuff, I don't think that stifles any blog at all.
Okay, talking about stifling, guys, guess what? I'm so sorry, but I have to run out of the studio. They say my time is up. But don't worry, I'm not leaving you, in the hands of the fire squad yet. I'm handing you over to Honorable Chooks, who's going to tell you everything about sports that you need to know. And Nigeria is playing a match today. You need to find out about the details of that. So don't go anywhere. My name is still Swift Aderito, like I always say. See you at the top.
My name is Souq. I'm the CEO of Gozi Micro Insurance. Continue to watch Souq News.
Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoin you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hey everyone, Majuli Obaje here representing Gigi. Keep watching Souq News, okay? Stay updated with Souq News.
My name is Aton Keme. I am the head of MSME banking. Please keep watching Souq News and stay glued to Souq News.
I recommend that more and more people should watch Souq News because they deal with business news.
Hi, my name is Amaka Wokolo. I am the director of the Faith Institute at Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a housing ground called Lake.
Hello and welcome to Souq Sports. My name is Souq, John Rogers Souq, and it's good and beautiful to be a Friday. I am here live on Front Burners, and they've been giving it to you hot, serving it as it's coming. Now let's get straight to what's happening with CAF. Congratulations to CAF. Now for those that have been arguing that Total Energies have always been the major sponsor for the CAF Championship, sorry, they will be there for next year, this year, until 2027. Now, for every other African company, conglomerate, or money holder that think that Total should not be there, hey, come up, drop the money, let's play. The game is all about who has money and put his mouth where the money is. Now, let's get to what's happening. Major sell-offs. You heard me. Yes, you heard me. We're looking at Boston Celtic. Now, a record has been made. 6.1 billion, new owner. Boston Celtic, NBA's Boston Celtic, has been sold for 6.1 billion at North American sport franchise. And let me tell you, one certain man that most people don't even know, William Beal Chisholm, is the new owner of Boston Celtic. I keep looking at that money and it keeps reverberating in my ear like one person and a group go out and buy an entire franchise. We'll get to see what happens in the next season, because for this season, they have spent the money. They will want to recoup something one way or the other. Yesterday, we talked about Bash. Remember Bash, the outgoing president of IOC. He said something about 7.7 billion being money raised from commercials in less than 4 years. By this time yesterday, a new president was elected, and she made history being the first she to be the president of the International Olympic Committee. And she beat 6 other people to that particular position. Now she has a very big shoe, not just to fill, to outsize. We say congratulations to Christy Coventry. She is the new president of the IOC. Let's get to what's happening with commercials. Nike announced a slump in sales. When they announce a slump in sales, you think it's small money. It's a whole lot of money. Revenue of 11.27 billion went down in the third quarter. That's much. Now, for this particular issue, a lot of executives have left. About 3 have left. But they have a new CEO, and he promises to do better. We want to see that. So congratulations to everyone that likes punching, watching those that have been punched, and look forward to being punched yourself. Because as I speak with you right now, boxing is going to be on the bill of the Olympics come next year. That particular vote scaled yesterday. 2022 boxing was out of the calendar for the Olympics, but is back and is ready to go. My name is Souq, John Rogers Souq. We'll do this again on Monday. Remember, be nice and have yourself a very beautiful weekend. Bye.
And finally, the week's edition of Front Burners has come to an end. This has been the grand finale for the entire week. We began Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and this is Friday. Thank God it's Friday. After the show, you can have yourself a wonderful brunch. Prepare for Owambe later if you have any to attend, but ensure that you catch some rest and resume business or work Monday all fired up. If what you do is such that you can actually take some time off during the weekend, make the most of it. I am blessing AJ. But as you plan on enjoying your weekend, take Souq News TV along with you, and also the Isle 104.9 FM, so that you can listen to some good music as well. So you can also get great information. There will be the media news at noon, and also world news at 3 p.m. on Souq News TV, as well as other interesting programs. I'm blessing AJ. I have been doing this show today with Dr. Dausao Samanze and Oyipuri Kumale. So they have words to say to you before they say bye.
Quite a nice time being here all week. And next week is another time. Looking forward to being here, God keeping us alive. Thank you to all our cameramen. Great work.
Yes. A great weekend to you. See you next week.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing, and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
Congratulations on the new channel, and I'm happy to be here. The Omniverse is imagined as a collaboration platform. So it's a platform that, as the name suggests, is bringing together ecosystems. So it's like an ecosystem of ecosystems, aggregating aggregators, and community leaders who are able to bring together their communities together to a platform. So the summit in itself was, while it was a big event and a heavy lift for us and the team, and I have to thank our team of volunteers. We had a team of about 40 full-time core volunteers that delivered the Omniverse. So one of the key things about the Omniverse is that it's designed to go beyond an event and designed to be fully something that people can engage beyond the summit. So we will be launching our digital platform. We have about 70 community partners already, including a number of government institutions. So to answer the question, there's public-private partnership within the Omniverse. There's regulators, there's government departments and agencies, there's ministries. But more importantly, there's diverse sectors across the economy coming together with the understanding that tech is the biggest enabler for development across all sectors, and that if we can drive collaboration, we can scale. So that's the ethos of the Omniverse. Collaboration is the superpower that we're trying to bring to the fore. That operating in silos has not paid us, but if we come together, understand that technology affects every sector, then we think the Omniverse is here to stay. Nigerian companies, Nigerian associations, global associations, and when I say associations, it's from things like the Nigerian digital artists who have 3,000 members, right, in the NFT community, the Visual Artists of Nigeria, the Society of Nigerian Art, the AfriLabs, which is the biggest innovation hub network on the continent in 54 African countries, ISN Hubs, which is our core partner, which is the biggest innovation network in Nigeria, innovation support network, with something like 189 hubs in 30 states in Nigeria. And these are primarily private sector-driven platforms, from aggregators who are major promoters of major platforms such as Lola Shone from Ake Book Festival, Choma Ode from AFRIF. We have a lot of these people who are either on our advisory board, they are co-chairs, or they are community partners, because what we're building is beyond any one person. It's about collaboration both at the top level, but through the line down to the bottom. The role of my council is, first of all, to be the primary sort of mandate is to infuse Nigerian arts and culture into everything the Nigerian government does, at state level, at federal level, and to input it into schools, education, and everywhere. So in that sense, to make arts and culture functional and front line everywhere. This will involve the foreign minister, making sure it's embedded in our foreign policy, in our embassies, in the government policy, in every sector. So we're literally going to be reaching out to collaborate to all government at all levels, all other agencies, MDAs, ministries, federal government and state government institutions, to see how we can find common ground. Because obviously we don't necessarily have a lot of money, but I feel we represent the real crude oil of Nigeria, which is the IP that the Nigerian people create. That IP they create, even if you valued it at $100 per Nigerian, that'd be something like $20 billion. And I believe each Nigerian is worth more than $100. So my own estimation, it's limitless, right? So what we have to do is we have to rethink how we imagine ourselves, rethink our own possibilities, and therefore from there, take off by pushing that agenda. But it's not an agenda for me alone. It's actually an agenda for all of Nigeria. Because when we put it front and center, it means we're putting the Nigerians front and center. And we put the Nigerians front and center, I think we win. I think historically you will find that the federal government and the governments of Nigeria have not funded heavily these sectors. They funded the heavy industries, the military-industrial complex, heavy infrastructure. But the funny thing is, whilst Africans will say, oh, this is grammar, what are you people talking about in arts and culture? What you find is that the West, right, for 500 years has dominated the world. How have they dominated the world? Through narrative. Okay, but what do we complain about? Narrative. But we haven't invested in narrative. So if you don't invest in telling your own story and owning your own story, why are you complaining about how you're perceived? So I think it's counterintuitive, and it's about time. And I'm very pleased and very happy that Nigeria now has a full ministry focused on this one specific issue. Because the truth of the matter is, we are older than time itself. We come before Christ. We come before the entire Western hegemony. We are actually the origins of everything, of innovation, of technology, of science, of education. But if we don't believe it ourselves and we don't express it, how can you expect anybody else to believe it? Well, I think the difference is that as a creative entrepreneur, there's really nothing to stop me, right? I can take all the risks. I don't have to worry about anything. I can decide, win or lose, we're doing this thing. But of course, as a public official, I have rules and regulations I have to go by. I have a boss, I report to people, and I have KPIs I have to deliver on. So there's a big difference in that regard. There's a difference in bureaucracy, maybe a difference in response time, but there certainly will not be a difference in my personality. So I think it's really about how you perceive what these things are. For me, it's an elevation, obviously, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to serve at this level, to do something that I believe in, to do something which is that I believe in Nigeria. I believe in Nigerians. I know our ability. I think we are world class. I don't like all this, it's good for Nigeria. I hate that. So I think for me, that is what's important. And to have the opportunity to try to deliver on some of the things we've been trying to do from the private sector for the last 25, 30 years. So there's nothing new for me in that regard. But of course, the position is new. Being in the government is new. But with a lot of support from friends, family, professional colleagues, and other people in the industry, plus my co-DGs and the minister, hopefully we'll do well. We're under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy, and that's very, very powerful because it means Nigeria itself has taken a decision to own the agenda. Hopefully I have a good time, have a good tenure, and I don't make any enemies. And well, for me, if you leave a place and the people that works with you have good things to say, if they feel better about their work and about themselves, and if the brand that you're now leading is now appreciated by the people for what it does and how it brings it to the table, then I've done my job. I think Afrobeats has already established the fact that we are originally Nigerian, or some people say arrogantly Nigerian. And it was intentional. We built this thing, and it was intentional because we're not going to ever apologize for being Nigerian. We're not going to apologize for being black. We're not going to apologize for being African. And that's front of mind. Because, you know, when you do show business, you have to validate it. So we validated the show maybe at least 10 years ago. So now we're in the business phase. So when you see the exit of Maven Records with UMG, you see Iwaju coming, Comic Republic with Universal Studios, you begin to understand where we're building to. And when you think about where we're coming from, where there was no infrastructure, no funding, no support, and I think part of what we hope to do with government at this time is, because we come from the sector, we can collaborate with everybody in the sector. We don't have to talk at them. We talk with them, we build with them. And together, I think it's limitless. You know, Nigerians like to say the sky is your limit. I think it's limitless. There's no limit to the whole situation. One of the things I talk about all the time is what's the difference between Thor and Shango? Thor is approaching $50 billion in revenue. Shango's broke somewhere outside Lagos. And that's a lack of imagination on our part. That's a lack of us delving into the richest thing we have, which is our mythology. Our mythology is endless. If you look at the Marvel universe and the DC Comics universe, the Orisha are basically the same thing as the X-Men. But the Orisha, some people are still afraid of them, whereas the X-Men are north of $100 billion in revenue. So I think we have to think, we have to understand and reimagine our mythology, our history, our stories, and how to bring them to the world in new formats. It's not just film. It could be live action, it could be gaming. There's so many different ways to action these things. And when you do them, and you do them right at the right level, as Iwaju is beginning to show you, our stories have always been world-class. Our characters are world-class. What we have not had is the resolve and the confidence to finish. But I think that is coming now. For me, I think it's still the fact there's more to do. My young brother, Misan Harriman, is nominated at the Oscars, the first Nigerian nominated for a director for a short film, because I know what that will do for the next generation of Nigerian directors, right? So for me, there's still more to do. There's so much more to do. When we see our first $100 million movie in the global box office, we need to celebrate it. When you win a Grammy, you need to celebrate it, because these are stages that we were locked out of. The technology and new media has allowed us to invade these spaces we were not even invited to. But now we're beginning to enter them and dominate. So even when you do that, you have to do it with grace and dignity, not with arrogance. And that's something that some of us have to learn. But the truth of the matter is, the greatness of the Nigerians is just beginning to come. And I feel strongly that this century we're already in the African century, and the soft power that we hold here is what will define the future of the century. I think the most important thing, the first thing to think about is IP protection, because the minister is working strongly, intellectual property. The US, if you take the state of California, California is probably in the top 5 economies in the world, and 70% of the economy of California is driven by intellectual property, by 2 core industries, Silicon Valley, which is coming out of Stanford University, and Hollywood, which of course is the music and film industry. Now, that is for anybody that says, oh, what is this thing that they're talking about? We don't understand it, it's grammar. The grammar is the money, okay? The narrative is the money, the story is the money. So any of your children or your nieces or nephews that have talent, visual art, performing art, arts and crafts, adire, all of these things that we've been taking as vocation, they are occupations. They are extremely valuable. And with digital technology and platforms, we can scale these things and generate incredible revenue. The point being that Nigeria has so much to bring to the world in terms of these things. I think Nigerian cuisine is going to be on the level of Chinese and Indian cuisine worldwide in the next 10 years. And if you understand that, then you understand that the Indian restaurants in the UK, as far back as 2009, were generating more money than the UK automobile, shipping, and metal, steel industries combined. That's just restaurants on the high streets. So that is why we must invest and we must put our energy into this sector, because this sector will provide the jobs, provide the revenues, and provide the global dollars that everybody's looking for. Oh, I think it hasn't even started. The Maven Records deal is giving you an indication of that. The reason why that valuation of $150 to $200 million has been done is because of the upside potential of Rema, who's 23, and Arya Star, who's 20. So they're looking at the fact that in 10 years' time, these guys could have generated $1 billion each. Do you understand? So it's a safe bet when you already have a built global talent at 23, when it normally takes years and years and a lot of money to build the talent, right? So what has happened is that we Nigerians have been able to build global talents, global following, with a percentage of the money it takes people in other places to do the same thing. So because of that, the value and the valuation is much bigger, right? So I would say the Afrobeats wave, it's not even a wave. It's been going for 15 years already. So when you encounter it is when you encounter it. If you think it's an overnight success in 2024, that means you were not around in 2008. 2006, I'd say it's a good time to think, when the sort of continental, because we took Africa first, working very closely and collaboratively with South Africans, Ghanaians, and Kenyans. Then we started going into Asia and the UK and America on the black, what I call the Nigerian chitlin circuits, moving through the Nigerian communities. And then by about 2010, begin to come into the mainstream with Oliver Twist and all these kind of records that break globally. And now you have gold records from Oliver Twist in 14 countries. And now, in a situation now where an artist like Ashake can come out of Lagos, speaking a language that is not known to most of these people, and generating, selling out arenas. To become an arena artist, let me tell you, there are only 4 or 5 arena artists from Africa, and they're all Nigerian. Don't take it for granted. I think a lot of people feel that, but what I should tell the rest of the country is that the rest of the continent is also trying to get to Lagos as well, right? It's not just the rest of Nigeria. From Accra, from Luanda, from everywhere on this continent, they're trying to get into Lagos, because if they can break in Lagos, they can break anywhere else in the world. But what I would say is this, from the perspective of my agency, our purview is national and global. We have 10 regional offices. We'll be visiting all of them. And our duty is to spotlight and showcase everybody. So we can't deal with just Lagos. And I think as we go forward, people begin to see the activations and plans coming. But the easiest way to do it, and the way we're going to do our best to do it, is to provide digital platforms to give everybody the opportunity to be seen. Because in this world, we live in the attention economy. So to be seen and to be noticed is very hard if you're not in the place where all the noise is being made. But I know for a fact there's significant talent in all parts of Nigeria. I was watching last week, a gentleman called Ehi Benite was showing me all this content from Jos with these guys rapping, serious stuff. They're rapping in Hausa, they were doing ciphers. And he was like, what do we do about these guys? I said, just keep pushing them because there's an audience for everything. There's an audience for everything. Don't be worried about that. There's an audience for every single thing, including the thing that you may be doing in your bedroom, but you think is not important. Somebody's interested in it. My label was a hip-hop label. I even refused to sign singers. There's almost every singer you could name was trying to get us to sign them. And I used to do it based on, can you rap? If you can't drop a freestyle, don't bother, right? It was that simple. And we helped all the other singers get signed to labels that we thought could help them and develop them in that direction. Hip-hop has changed, and obviously it's generational, right? So hip-hop has changed, and everybody approaches music from their own generation. Like, oh, I like this kind of hip-hop or that kind of hip-hop. What I feel is that Afrobeats became overwhelming, and it overwhelmed every other genre here. So the hip-hop guys had to fight for relevance, but the best ones always rise to the top. That's just the simple truth. So I don't worry about that. And I've heard enough guys. I even saw there was a whole Instagram series some guy was doing about a year ago where he was just bringing out fresh rappers every day from Enugu, from Jos, from Kaduna, from Kano, from Benin. I love it. I think there are incredible MCs in Nigeria. A lot of times they need to focus on doing better songs, right? Not just being a freestyle rapper. If you want to get paid to rap, you've got to do better songs. You can't just do the freestyles. And that's something they've got to think about. You've got to balance the commercial side of it with the business side of it. And what has happened is, to a large extent, the commercial side has won because you've got to pay bills. But hip-hop, it never dies. I think, first of all, obviously from the perspective of I'm sitting in government, so I'm not in a position to tell government what to do or what not to do. But what I can say is this, is that the agency, my agency will be the home for the music industry, for performing arts, visual arts, fashion, gaming, recreation, festivals, culinary arts, film and television. We're kind of a convening agency for the ministry. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of places to touch, but we're also going to collaborate with all the other MDAs in the ministry and heavily with the private sector and the developmental sector. Because to answer the question, I've worked in all these spaces for, it's not quite 40 years, but it's a long time. I've worked in all these spaces for a long time. In institutions, we have positive relationships to bring to the table to change the approach and to change the destination of where we hope to go. What I will say as well is that the reality of it is we're just beginning the journey. And there are no magic wands. I'm not going to wave a wand and everything's going to be fixed overnight, and neither is anybody else. But we will be bringing fresh energy, fresh ideas, a fresh engagement, and we're obviously open to collaboration. And that's really important for me to say that, because people feel there are gatekeepers, but in my agency, there are no gatekeepers, right? We're not interested in whether you have the biggest reputation or the smallest reputation. We're interested in the value you're bringing to the table. Because the truth of the matter is Nigeria is massive. There's a lot of stuff going on in Nigeria. We're going to try to aggregate those things and bring them into one platform so that even as Nigerians, we can know what we're doing. Because to be honest, if you don't know and you don't follow, there's no way you can know 90% of what is happening even in Lagos before you talk about the rest of the 36 states and the FCT. So for me, from my perspective, the journey continues. The objective remains the same. We want to see Nigeria win. But in order to do it this time, I don't think government should ever be disinterested in the nature of the industries in which it is operating. But we also don't need to be owning the space. We want to enable, partner, collaborate, and see how we can push people to do more. Because there are already people doing a lot, and maybe they haven't been recognized, they haven't been brought out, they haven't been celebrated. All these kind of things we can help to do, help to get news stories and people to bring these things to the fore, right? Like I said today, a Nigerian who was nominated for an Oscar as a director, the first Nigerian. It's up tonight at the Oscars. It's not news in Nigeria. That's a problem. We have to be able to tell the stories that are of greatness of our people, because if you don't do that, you can't inspire anybody.
welcome again. It's that time of the week. We are on our book review show. We talk about the intricacies of specially written books that help mankind and give you the best of life, to add to the best of life for you. As we take on this break, when we return, we'll be introducing our guest author and CEO of a bookshop. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This week we have a special guest, author, Lagos Business School alumni. She's a UNILAG PhD holder. She's a certification. She has certification in BizCom and negotiation, connecting with children, non-profit leadership. She just has a long list of qualifications. Her name is Irene Okon Udosen. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And to my right, my other guest, Mr. Ekom Henry. He's the CEO, All Range Bookshop. Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So today, we're looking at the book, Lead Out. A special book. I've looked at it myself, and it's quite impressive. But we invited the author today here to shed some more light on what the book is about, what influenced the book, what got behind her to put pen to paper on such an important book, especially in this time. So without further ado, may I call you Irene?
That's fine.
So please talk to us. What's the inspiration? Let's start from the inspiration behind such a literature.
Okay. Lead Out is an education reorientation handbook that was written to be a complementary text for students because we realized that many students go to school without, being prepared to go through academic rigorousness. They want to acquire education, right? But they are more focused on certification than getting knowledge. So at the end of the day, after school, you realize that there is a knowledge gap while they graduate with a mind-blowing certificate. And if we allow things to continue like this, the labor market suffers. For instance, I was with someone who works in a media house a few days ago, and this person has an intern under him, and he was telling me about the difficulty of working with young people. Because after graduation, you see that they are not really, or they don't seem ready to fit into the system in terms of delivery. Yes, capacity. So Lead Out book is a text that is intended to foster academic responsibility among students, to develop readership, and also inspire students to read and be part of their own education. Because we believe that no matter the reforms, if students or learners are not part of their education, there won't be quality education. And of course, if there's no quality education, how do we expect to produce graduates that would in turn drive development in our society? The knowledge will not be there, both the knowledge to transform Nigeria or even compete, or to produce something that they can use to compete in the global market will not be there. So if a child says, I'm going to school, you have to help that child realize that it's responsibility, right? I'm not sure how many parents tell their children the purpose of education. All we were told was to go to school, and of course, for the purpose of a better future. But we were not taught how to acquire that future. So there's the likeliness that, not even the likeliness, there is I think there is negligence towards knowledge, right? We've over time emphasized certificate, excuse me, we've emphasized certificate to the point that people can do anything, to acquire a degree, even if they don't have use for it, just because they want to go to school. But at the end of that, do they have the knowledge to function? I think that's key. And any education that is not functional will not be a useful one. So I think this is the book that raises that consciousness for every student.
Awesome. You see, you mentioned it twice. I was going to ask you, but I said, let me let you finish the flow of your thoughts. Why is it so important today to show off certificates?
Okay, I think certificate is important, right? We're not demeaning certificate, but we're saying that in spite of its significance, there should be a balance, right? For instance, if I have a first class and I walk into an organization and I'm given a responsibility and I end up disappointing, I mean, I think my certificate will be viewed as a sham, right? But certificate is actually the first proof of knowledge, because that is what people can see until you're given the opportunity to prove the education in you. But if you cannot prove the education in you, then I think it creates more embarrassment than than the embarrassment that is associated with not being learned. Because if I'm not learned, there's a level of accountability that I won't be held to. Yeah. Sorry?
So much you expected of. When they know, okay, you don't have it.
Yes. When you don't have it, people don't expect much. But when you have it, they want to see it.
Correct.
Yes.
So, Mr. Ekom, let me come to you. Posing that same question, maybe I have to break it down further. In Nigeria today, we see the importance of the show-off, underlined show-off of certificates, BSc, MSc, PhDs. People want to, appear like they know or they're learned. Why do you think that problem is?
Thank you. I think that is part of the societal malaise and expectations from governments and institutions, employers of labors that do use these certificates in terms of people that they need, in terms of manpower and capacity, personnel development, and all that. You see an advert in the paper, you see what they need is BSc, second class, upper, first class, and all those limitations. And people will now say, okay, if I didn't have a first class, I didn't have a second class, upper, then I have to try and get a master's by all means necessary. They acquired a master's degree, they couldn't get a job, they said, okay, let me go for a PhD. Let me do it part-time. And you see a plethora of degrees, someone who is looking for a job as a personnel manager will come with a master's degree in personnel management, master's degree in project management, PhD, and some even call names, business school, big business school, London Business School, Lagos Business School, just to make sure they get a job. And it's a problem because, as Irene rightly pointed out, you must be able to defend whatever paper you present, whatever documents, or whatever knowledge you have acquired. And that is when you are given the opportunity to work and to prove. And they say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. When you employ these persons, you find out that what they have presented or what they pretend to acquire do not line up with what the job
the expectation of the job and the position they have acquired. So you see the conflict in the workplace. So you see the staff turnover. Because by and large, those people might be relieved of that job. And then the hunting continues. And when we have economy that is too weak, you might not find out that employers of labor these days are no more looking for so much of paper qualification. They will ask you to show what you have done, and then they probably might give you put you on probation for a period of time to see if you can actually prove what your papers represent. And these days that we are talking about practical work, people now looking for technical capacity and all other capacities beyond the papers that you have presented. So employers of labors are now looking for your ability to work with other people, social network capacity, the ability to use the systems available, and so many other inputs are being canvassed such that whatever must have been a deficiency in the paper you have presented, probably maybe you have personal marketing abilities, personal selling points. I call it key selling points. Individuals coming to work in a place now, they'll ask you, what are your key selling points beyond your paper qualifications? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ekom. I'll come back to you, Irene. So there are numbers in the book that you mentioned, 75% unemployable, which leaves the ratio at 25% employable. Is this ratio real? This number is real? And if so, what's the process to tackle this?
Okay,
Going by what you have in lead out,
based
the
on
book.
statistics, I
Yes.
would say they are because people did their research actually.
Okay.
And I've had people see the figures and they're like, am I sure they are not even above this, right? Because until you get to interact with young people, you won't know the mess we're in. Thank God for soft skills, thank God for tech skills and all. That is kind of like covering the whole thing up because he made mention of them, right? So this is real. Especially for students in public schools. I work with them and I don't want to start pronouncing names or calling names. We have students in public schools that are almost graduating that cannot read properly. So as we speak, there's even a learning challenge. Let's not go into that. So I think one of the ways we can tackle this is by being intentional about our education or educating our young people, right?
Can you break that down?
Okay, I will.
Okay.
So we need to redefine education for young people, and we need to support them in getting that education. It's not enough to take a child to school and register the child, you know. You have to have there has to be that consciousness of this is for me, this is for my future. The dream I envisage, what I want to become in the next 30 years. This is my beginning. Supposing it's a primary school. You have to create that connection, right? And just let that child realize that you're not going to get to 30 years or 25 years and just find yourself as a medical doctor somewhere. You have to begin now to put in the work. If you don't understand your mathematics properly, if you can't, you just have to tell them the import of each subject or whatever training they are undergoing. If you don't understand your mathematics properly, this is where it's going to land you on this part. If you don't understand communication, this is where it's going to land you. So the child has to be consciously involved.
All right. Thank you for that. It's still behind pages. We're talking to author Irene Udosian. Let's take a break. When we return, we'll talk some more on the book Lead Out. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Behind Pages. We're talking to author Irene Okon-Udosien and Mr. Ekom Henry. We're looking at the book Lead Out, an education reorientation handbook. And it brings me to my next question. When we look at, it's for both of us, right? When you rummage through the internet, you're looking at news on TV, you're looking at Vox Pop, you're looking at just stuff that exposes you to seeing people talk and express themselves. You see, there's a lot of show of lack of capacity, like we said the last time, lack of etiquette, lack of the basic things that make you interact properly and show off that whatever knowledge you are trying to sell. Why is that? And I've seen this for years, like from watching news and all that stuff for eons, actually, for decades and decades till now. It's a problem. You see someone that's, let me break it down further, someone that they say has a BSc, has an MSc, but the tenses are poor. The tenses are wrong. Now, what would a book like Lead Out do for such a person? We'll have a ton of this as a problem.
Okay, we talked about what's going on in the education system. And if you look at it, it's an all-encompassing problem, actually. It's not just, the problem is not just focused on students, right? When it comes to education,